Welcome back. It's been a whole 2 minutes since we've had a chance to chat with you last. Welcome to the PHLY Phillies Watch Along here, the in-game show presented to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Tyler Zulli here. Andrew Frasier is going to join us in just a moment as well. Really, really excited about this tonight because I love the opportunity to get a chance to watch the game along with everybody at home. I love the opportunity. I already saw a comment by Molly and Barkley's Life that says, like, hey, it's great when you're got out-of-town people who don't get a chance to watch the game. So this is always fun. I love doing these. And we have an awesome cast and crew joining us today. So we're going to jump right into things. And this is going to be way more laid back. This isn't one of those, like, I think you've kind of grown to know me over the last couple of months. Like, I do a lot of the analytic, nerdy baseball stuff, and I love doing that kind of stuff. But when we do an in-game like this is more reactionary. This is what we get to see in real time. And so you see Bryce Harper fly out to the warning track. You know, you get a little excited. You see Bryson Stott with, by the way, another leadoff base hit. He just continues to have success at the top of the lineup. Like, these are always a lot of fun. So we get to kind of be more fans in this regard. We can freak out over bad calls by the home plate umpire. We can freak out by poor pitch selection or enjoy the fun together. So without further ado, Andrew has done a lot of really great work today. So I want to bring Andrew Frasier on to join the show. Andrew, what's happening, buddy?
How you doing, Tyler? Good to see you.
Yeah, good. I think you and I saw each other this morning at 7 a.m. and we're back at 7 p.m.
That's our daily routine, yeah.
So this is first watch along for you, isn't it? Have you done one of these with anybody else before?
I have not.
Yeah, these are cool because, like I said, we get to just kind of be fans on this one.
Yeah.
We kind of, instead of having a rundown, instead of having show notes, we just say, let's talk baseball. We just say, let's talk. So like we did these. My all-time favorite ones that PHLY has ever done are the Franning casts. I got a chance to be a part of some of those. And when you listen to Fran talk, you think you're listening to Nostradamus. The guy is so smart. He's so thought out. The way that he watches football is so different. And so I love when we have these opportunities to do this. So starting in the top of the second, we're going to get joined by a slew of different PHLY guests. And Jamie Lynch is going to kick things off for us in the top of the second. So we'll chat with him in just a moment. But Andrew, good start to the inning, top of the inning. First and third, Kyle Schwarber with a base hit, Bryson Stott with a base hit, Nick Castellanos at the plate with an opportunity to drive in some early runs. Yeah, and I talked a little bit about it on the pregame show. Didn't get a chance to talk too much about it. Griffin Canning is a career gas can. Like, he's not that good. He is, and I don't mean that. And here's the thing: when we say like a player's not good, I think we should always take it like with relativity. Like, if Griffin Canning played at your local rec league, he's going to throw a perfect game. But Griffin Canning as a major league pitcher is not particularly somebody that I fear. But he's been good this year so far. Like, your eyeballs tell you that he's got a 3.43 ERA, striking out about a hitter per inning. He throws a lot of junk. He wants you to chase the slider. His slider is actually his most used pitch, more than his fastball and his changeup. He wants you to chase the slider down and away. And so I think one of two things happen. The Phillies either make him throw a lot of pitches, like they've done to a lot of starters over the last week or so, or he's going to chase rate them into the ground.
Yeah.
And I think 2 weeks ago, I would have told you this guy's going to throw 6 shutout innings because the Phillies are going to whiff 22 times. And they're going to chase at breaking balls. They're going to chase, fastball up in the zone. They're going to chase slider down and away. This team's done, and last night I think leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But this team's done a much better job of not chasing as much. Their plate discipline's been better. I think the guy at the plate right now, Nick Castellanos, might be the best example of it because he's free swinging first pitch, just
of course,
that goes after it. He's been really, really good with his plate discipline for most of the year.
He has been. And I'm hoping here, watching this, we got a guy first and third, that Nick cashes in on the bet that everybody was hoping was going to cash out yesterday, with the home run.
Yeah, the running joke is probably tiresome at this point.
But it's also like
first of
crazy
all,
how true it is at the same time. That
it's
almost
pretty
like,
morbid.
yeah,
It's pretty morbid to joke about.
it is.
And he ends up hitting that ball pretty hard right at the center fielder. So nothing comes of the first inning. But the
Oh, you're ahead
Phillies.
of me. I'm behind you.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I was just watching
Well,
first here.
well,
Yeah.
I hope that I don't spoil anything for you.
Oh, you could spoil. It's fine. Yeah, I just saw you got right out to center.
But I mean, the Phillies hit 3 balls hard then. So, like, to me, I don't know what you consider when I look at exit velocity. I consider a hard hit ball anything over 95 miles an hour.
Sure.
You get into the hundreds, that's definitively a hard hit ball for me. So the Phillies in that inning, 99 off the bat of Trey Turner, an out. 100 off the bat of Bryce Harper, an out. 95 off the bat of Nick Castellanos, an out. The 2 softest hit balls of the inning were the 2 that resulted in base hits. Bryson Stott was 90 miles an hour. Kyle Schwarber was 87. But the funny thing is, like, the Phillies' expected batting average on the first 4 batters was 690, 480, 410, and 980. So, like, this is what Griffin Canning's done all year to hitters is tightrope out of danger, get the big out when he needs to. But he gives up a lot of hard contact, and he gives up contact that the computer metrics tell you are, probably going to find soft spots at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Got him up to 20 pitches, so we'll see what's going on with that. Obviously we want to get him out as quickly as possible, but
I don't know if we like that.
Yeah, I'm excited. And one thing about this Mets team is, this team is obviously in the Phillies' heads, and they got to get him out of there. And I think a win tonight, bounce back from yesterday, get the win tonight. I think that's going to help them.
Yeah, I mean, 7 of the last 9 they've lost, including those 3 out of 4 in the NLDS. And I almost take the NLDS. I'm not going to say I take it out of the equation because it was the end of the season. It was the end of a frustrating season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this team this year should not use those as like a get in your head type of thing.
Sure.
Different team. I mean, it's effectively the same team, right? They basically ran it back, but it's a different season, different pitching staffs for both teams. I would like to maybe separate the 2, but it's hard to. But like you said, when you face a team that has beaten you 77% of your last 9 games, it's hard to not take that into consideration.
It is. Should we pull up Jamie here?
Yeah, let's bring Jamie Lynch in a little bit early if he's available. From the head of content, the head of content, not from the head of content, the man who doesn't wear a suit to work, but probably should.
Never.
Is Jamie
Never.
Lynch.
Flip-flops for life, Tyler. Yeah, bad hat and flip-flops. That's me.
Still wearing the same hat, man.
Yeah. Yeah, Filthy
never
McNasty
changed.
can't deter me.
So, Jamie, we were talking in the pregame show about Cristopher Sanchez, and I know you, much like me, much like most Phillies fans, have adored Cristopher Sanchez for a long time now. The strides that he made last year, I thought were a maturation process. The strides that he's made this year have been unbelievable.
Yeah, it really has. And having Bob down in the locker room the other day, joining us, being like, he is every bit of 6'6". Like, he got bigger, which is, certainly possible. He's still pretty young. I said to Bob, what, a top 10 NL pitcher?
So I was just talking
like over
about
the last calendar year, 365 days. Like
I was just talking about it on the pregame show about, like, it's not just bad teams that would say he's their ace. There are some good teams across. I use the Cubs as the example. Like
Paul Skeens, the Pirates are going. Cristopher Sanchez is our ace. Opening day, home starter. Take a seat there, Paul.
Yeah, I too like to bench perhaps the best pitcher in baseball in the next couple of seasons. But like, I use the Cubs as the example because Shota Imanaga has been really, really good, but they don't have anybody that throws hard. And now that Cristopher Sanchez is throwing 97, 98, like, that's a top of the rotation type of guy.
Yeah, and the changeup was already one of the best pitches in baseball statistically. We covered that last year, how just effective it was for him. So you add a mile or an hour or two to that fastball, and boy, oh boy, that changeup is going to look filthy. So yeah, you're seeing possibly the greatest contract the Phillies have ever signed. If this trajectory he stays on, they're paying him like $5.5 million a year. He's like free.
Yeah.
He's like free. So if he
Especially-
keeps this up, it's like unbelievable.
Especially when you look across baseball and you see how many players, but even just specifically how many pitchers are making more than $20 million a year.
Oh yeah.
And his highest year, I think, is the final year before the mutual option, and I think it's like 12.5.
Ooh, like if that's as bad as it gets, and he's as good as we think he is.
You're talking about 12.5. I think in what 2029. I think it is.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. 2030, he has a $15 million club option. Not even a Cristopher Sanchez option.
So the Phillies are going to say, "Hey, thanks for 2 consecutive All-Star appearances.
Yeah,
being a top 5. Yeah, I think we'll accept."
Yeah. I things can happen, and he can obviously regress, but man, he looks like the real deal, and that contract just looks unbelievable.
Well, and we were talking about it in earlier in the show, and somebody asked, like, what does the rotation look like at the end of the season? And I think at the end of the season, it's relatively unscathed with Andrew Painter joining the fold. But I think next year, the rotation probably slates to be Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola, Luzardo, Painter to begin the season. And that gets you excited. I know you're talking about next year, and we probably shouldn't, but like that gets you excited a little bit.
It's fun to look at the future. I mean, Andrew Painter, I know the bullpen sucks right now, and it's the hot button topic, but the starting pitching has been phenomenal, and they're going to add a top 10 prospect in baseball to the staff in some capacity this year, whether he's a 6th starter or pen or whatever. He's going to be a bolster to this club.
So, Jamie, we were talking about Aaron Nola yesterday, and I know Aaron Nola is a sore spot for a lot of people. What would you have done if you were Rob Thompson? Would the 6th have been it for you, or would you have sent him back down for the 7th?
If Jose Ruiz is my first arm up, Aaron, let me see what you got in the 7th. I mean, this bullpen out of the top 3 is just like
it's bad. I mean, you can call it what it is. It's bad. It's
horrible, and you gotta address something, because not to say they can't overcome it in the end, but like you can't keep shooting yourself in the foot this early in the season. I think they're tied for the 3rd wild card spot right now. Or did they move up?
Sounds probably about right. But they have the 2nd worst team bullpen ERA. The last I checked, it was 5.81. It's probably worse now after some of the runs that were allowed yesterday. Well, I guess only one of the runs was earned by Jose Ruiz, but only the Nationals had a worse bullpen ERA, and we saw them on opening weekend. That bullpen stinks.
Yeah, and the bats will come around, so I'm not worried about them. It's strictly bullpen. Like, you just can't give these great starts away. I felt bad for Nola last night in a way.
So I was talking about it. I think, he settles down after the 2 solos, and
after the Juan Soto heart flutters. I was like, oh boy, here's the game.
It has a chance to be 5-0. Instead, it's 2-0. He gets a ground out to Soto and a pair of strikeouts, and then clean 4th, clean 5th, clean 6th. And I think if you have a bullpen you trust, or a bullpen that wasn't taxed for 1 million pitches over the weekend because of a bunch of different things, I think you probably
because of your boy Romano.
Cheese. That's what he's serving up.
Yeah, if Jose Alvarado doesn't have to pitch on Saturday, that's why that was so frustrating. It was just like guys were throwing unnecessary pitches, and I think Paul Mancini in the chat was just like, you're going to burn those 3 out by July if you keep this up.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about trusting Strom, Kerkering, and Alvarado. And right now, that's pretty much
2 of those 3 I love. 1 I like a lot, and I want to love.
I think you and I are probably on the same page as to who it is. It's Kerkering, right?
We love the lefties. We like the righty.
So, to me, like, Kerkering needs a 3rd pitch.
Yeah.
I think you have to develop a 3rd pitch, and probably something with downward break, whether it be a changeup or a splitter or something with some downward break, because I think right now guys are sitting on the sweeper, especially early. Like, you've seen his chase rate's not good this year. And I think you've seen him throw a lot of first pitch balls to right-handed hitters with the sweeper out of the zone, trying to get them to fish. And they're just sitting on it. And then he has to either use the sweeper in the zone or throw the fastball in the zone. And that's where he does run into a little bit of trouble. I think he would benefit greatly from a 3rd pitch.
Yeah. I wonder if that's something Caleb, I don't remember reading it in spring training, but I wonder if it's, I think he has talked about it before, but I trust Caleb Cotham. He's been a great pitching coach here. So if that's something that they can get working on in season, like not saying you trot it out this year, but like start the baby step process to getting that third pitch. That would be a great thing.
All right. So the Mets are going to take an early 1-0 lead.
You're slightly ahead of me. 3-2 pitch gets them, huh?
Andrew said the same thing too. Mark Vientos
as well.
3-2. What is it? A hanging ball?
Mark Vientos, who just continues to kill the Phillies from the postseason to now. RBI double down the line. Juan Soto scores. So we talked about this a little bit on the pregame show. Sanchez's worst inning this year so far has been the first inning. 3 of his 8 earned runs have come in the first inning. Now it's 4 of 9. He's just, I think the only thing that he needs is the time to settle in. And if he can limit this to 1, you're going to feel okay heading into the middle portions of the inning, because that's where he really starts to cruise. His numbers in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th innings are like off the charts good, Jamie.
Yeah. That's interesting. Who's the first guy that comes to mind when you think of like this? I guess I feel like Roy Halladay had that, where it would be like occasionally you could get him in the first and then he would just shut you down.
Yeah, I think Scherzer was that way for a while.
Scherzer comes to mind, yeah.
If you're going to get after a really good starter, the best time to do it's in the first 20 pitches.
Yeah.
Because if you let them lock in, you're cooked.
Yeah, I think Doc's the guy that comes to mind in a Phil's uniform of just like, you might get 1 or 2 on him occasionally, but good luck the next 7 or 8.
Yeah, if you get blanked in the first inning, you might not score tonight.
And one of the great attributes of Sanchez is he seems cool as a cucumber up there at all times, doesn't he? He never seems to like be emotional. He might like curse in his glove every once in a while, but he seems pretty unfazed on the mound. He has a really good demeanor up there.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that they've done, other than construct the starting rotation that runs at least 4 deep, and when Nola's pitching better, it's 5 deep, but we'll see how that comes back to fruition. One of the things they've done is put together a staff of guys who really don't bend under pressure.
No, Nola, I don't think would react to like anything.
Yeah,
like, good or bad.
Wheeler's a robot.
Did you hear JT, our buddy Jim Salisbury, on his podcast, was talking about Zach Wheeler? They had JT on, and JT was telling the story about what it's like to talk to Wheeler when things don't go well. And he's apparently a don't bleep and talk to me. Don't come out here. I don't want to be spoken to. I know what to do. And JT said he went out there once and he just said like into his glove, like, get the bleep off my mound.
very, very Bob Gibson-esque.
Yeah.
I always think about the guys, in the 60s and 70s into the 80s. Like, if you're a pitching coach or you're a catcher, what do you do to come out to talk to Bob Gibson? What do you do to come out to talk to Nolan Ryan?
I think Euchre, when Euchre passed, I was watching a bunch of old clips of his from like Johnny Carson and like his early days transitioning to the movies and announcing. And he used to say he would like, because he caught Bob Gibson, I'm pretty sure. And there was a story about it. I think he went out there and would just like talk about dinner reservations with him. Like he would just like crack jokes and be like, oh, so where are we going after the game, Bob? Like he was just like, I didn't talk pitching with him. Like that's Bob Gibson.
His mound. You can't have his mound.
Yeah. So he said he would just go out there to give him like a breather and just like BS with him.
The year that he went like, 1.2 or something like that, just like the most ridiculous season in the history of baseball. He had an absurd amount of complete games.
Yeah, he really did. I'm looking it up. He had an 11.2 WAR. I know you love WAR in 1968.
All right, listen.
268 strikeouts.
Listen, WAR. When you start telling me
it's a good historical like marker.
When you start telling me a guy has an 11 WAR in one season, I go, okay, that tells me something. That tells me it was
a 1.12 ERA, Tyler, in 304 innings.
Yeah, he just never left the mound. What do you throw? 30, 38 starts, something like that?
It's 35.
Yep, sounds about right.
Oh my gosh. And
Phil-
and so he has 11.2 and 68, 69. Nice. He follows it up with a 10.4 WAR, and then in 70 an 8.9.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, his ERAs went 1.12, 2.18, 3.12,
What a
304 innings, 314 innings, 294 innings.
What a bad year, man.
What a bum.
Phil's in some trouble right now. Runners at the corners, 2 outs. Sanchez is laboring in the first inning. He's
Yeah,
about
he
to
is.
throw
What's he up to?
I think this is 29th or 30th pitch here.
Yeah, 28th. I'm on the 28th. You might be on the 29th.
So the approach to Sanchez is very clear. Their teams are just going to throw as many right-handed hitters as they possibly can at him, which is kind of funny because that's where I think his changeup's the most effective, is diving out over the plate to right-handed hitters.
Yeah.
You see it tonight with the Mets. So Lindor hits right-handed, the switch hitter obviously, but hitting right-handed tonight. Juan Soto hits lefty, and then they run 7 straight right-handed hitters out to wrap up the lineup. So they ended up going Vientos for Beatty, Marte for Winker, and Azokar for Nimmo. And basically what the Mets said was, we're playing the numbers, and all of our righties are hitting today.
Yeah. Yeah. And Vientos hadn't been hitting well. I think he was at 167 before that last hit on the year. Marte's off to a slow start. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Yeah, peace. But yeah, it appears that is their strategy tonight. Looks like they've moved it inside on the hands a little bit on him here.
So Sanchez gets out of the inning.
Okay.
Sorry to break.
That's all right. You can break it to me if it's good news. If it's bad news,
strikes out Torrens to end the inning, but throws 31 pitches, I believe, in the process. 31 pitches. Far less change, not percentage wise, far less changeups than what he did in his last start. So last start he threw 97 pitches. Take a guess how many changeups he threw, Jamie.
97 pitches. I'll go with 42.
It's a great guess. It's actually more. He threw 50.
I was going to say 45, and first I had 47. I was like, nah, it's too much, and then I lowered it a little bit.
He threw 50 changeups in his last start against the Giants. 10 in the first inning, 16 sinkers, 5 sliders, 10 changeups. So he gets 5 whiffs on 14 swings, which is good. But he is giving up. He did ended up giving up the run because he did throw a lot of pitches.
Yeah, that's not an ideal start. I saw an elephant in the room saying that's not a great start. No, certainly. But look, to go on the road in a hostile environment, first place team, and to get out of that jam there, you'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the command wasn't particularly sharp in that inning.
But what does it mean, Tyler, if he's at a high pitch count early? We're going to have to see more bullpen.
Joe Ross is going to pitch tonight.
Yeah. Joe Ross and Tanner Banks, come on down. Woo!
What's the I know you're not a big gamer, but what's the game fallout with the guy in the radiation suit with the thumbs up? Andrew, you're a gamer.
Andrew knows that one. Look, he's got his gaming like LED lights going on in the background.
No, that's the TV.
Yeah.
Dark room right now. Yeah. Fallout is the game.
Oh, didn't they just make that into a TV show?
They did, yeah. It was really good.
Was that the Walter Goggins?
Walter Goggins, yeah.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
Out, I think in like a couple months.
Yeah, I heard it got good reviews.
It did, yeah.
By the way, D-Rel is 93. Yeah, Vientos is the third baseman. We were saying yesterday Beatty played, and then today they went with a right-handed heavy lineup. And obviously Vientos is going to get a bulk of the innings for the Mets. He's the starting third baseman. I had a hell of a postseason last year.
He killed us. Absolutely
killed everybody. I mean, he was good against the Dodgers. He was good against the Brewers and good against the Dodgers.
So let me throw this at you as the German leads us off. I'm in a 20-year fantasy keeper league, just like outrageous rules.
Baseball?
Yeah, it's been going on a long time.
God bless.
No bullpens. You have to keep 10 people. It's just kind of like weird and wild. It's not even for money. It's just for pride and fun. So there's a couple Mets fans in the league. And prior to the season, my Mets buddy offered me Trey Turner for Vientos. Now, it's a keeper league, so I had to think about it. Would you have done that? I denied it.
I am probably a bigger Vientos fan than most.
I like him. I just didn't want to cheer for him.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you have that mindset of like not wanting Mets or Braves, or in the NFL, like not wanting Cowboys on your team.
I'll take a couple Braves, mate. Like, I don't like to do it, but I will.
Yeah. And listen, I know Vientos struggled to begin the year. His average is up to 167. It's probably a little bit more now, but he's 8 for his last 27. Has only struck out 4 times in that span. I think he's a good hitter. I think he's a good player.
He is. He is.
And I don't know if he's going to hit 4 forever for them. I don't know exactly what his best fit in the lineup is, but I think he's a really, really good hitter. And like we said, had a heck of a postseason last year.
So would you have done the deal?
I don't think so.
Because it's an interesting one from a, Trey Turner being, 32 years old now?
Yeah, a little bit older.
Vientos and the keeper aspect.
Because the question is, I guess, like over the next 4 or 5 years, how many years do you expect Trey Turner to have a better production year than Vientos? And I don't think the answer is more than the inverse. Like, I think Vientos might have more than Turner, especially towards the back end of that. I think I probably would have agreed. I think I would have denied it as well.
Yeah. All right. That makes me feel a little better.
Top 2.
I did have the regret of like, are you just doing this as a Phillies fan? And I was like, I'm okay with that.
Top 2, Max Kepler, I believe, struck out. I didn't get a chance to see exactly, but I believe struck out in the inning. JT. So we were talking earlier on the show.
JT's falling off a cliff offensively.
Struggling a lot. He's really, really struggling.
His bat speed just looks slower.
So let me ask you this, Jamie, because we have talked about next year being the year the Phillies get a lot of money back, at least on the surface, get a lot of money back because there's contracts that are up. Now, I think if they let Kyle Schwarber walk, they're insane.
I don't think they will.
And
Dombrowski, did you catch his comments the other day? He was on foul territory or something, and he basically said, like, I'm not going to get into the details, but it's something we're working on. He's like the best clubhouse guy I've ever seen. He loves it here. We love it here. So it sounds like it's going to get done.
So as we say, JT struggling, double down the line.
All right.
So
see?
Muto. Powers.
We just needed the mush watch along to get them going.
So my question about JT for you,
right,
I'm curious your thoughts on. I think the Phillies have to extend Real Muto.
Yeah, I think so.
Because the only guy in the system that I feel like is going to be a major league player is Eduardo Tait.
Did you see his bomb tonight? First pitch.
Kid can hit.
Dude, 108. I gotta look. It's in our Discord, and it's a great time to become a diehard if you want to get in and become a Discord member with us. Yeah. Let me see here. 113.8 miles an hour off the bat, 424 feet.
So my question with him, we know he can hit. Now, like, obviously, he's a long ways away. He's in the high A, I believe, now in Clearwater.
Yeah, I think he's only 9. Did he just turn 19?
Yeah, 19 or 20.
Yeah, he's not even 20, I don't think.
Obviously, he can hit at the level that he's
18.
Can he be an everyday catcher? That's my question.
He's still 18.
Is he really?
That's great.
Yeah, the kid can hit. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's really – I mean, Marshawn, look, knock on wood, has stayed healthy here for a little while, longer than he's used to. But you can't say Rafael
It's
Marshawn.
April 22nd, Jamie. Don't jinx nothing.
Yeah, that's true. But you also can't be like, oh, yeah, no, Marshawn's my starting catcher.
Yeah, I think that – so an extension – I know that Dombrowski and the Phillies have tended to like to give more years to keep the AAV down. I think with the guys that are about to come off the books, I would almost go inverse, and I would be willing to give more money than expected
and Real Muto
to keep the years down. Now, Schwarber, not so much. I still think Schwarber could get a 3 or 4 year deal easy.
Oh yeah, easy.
JT,
Phil's got away with one there. That was a strike on Bohm.
Sure did. And looks like a line.
JT, you probably don't want to go more than 2 years.
But my question is, like, does he take
one?
Does he get 3 or 4 somewhere else? I don't know if you've looked around Major League Baseball lately, Jamie.
It's bad, dude. I tried to pick up a catcher off the waivers the other day, and I was looking at just like the whole catchers around baseball. It's bad.
So, like, I was doing this exercise not too long ago. Maybe you and I were talking about it off the air. Like, how many catchers, even with diminished offensive performances, how many catchers across baseball would you take over JT still? If you add in the defense and the pop time and stuff.
Like 4 or 5.
So, Rutschman, right, for sure.
Contreras's.
Probably at least Brewers Contreras. Phil's tied the game, by the way.
Nice.
Johan Rojas coming up.
Oh, yeah. Johan.
Yeah, you saw the bounce off the glove.
Oh, man, you're way behind.
I'm seeing first pitch
so
right now. I'm assuming he's about to jump something.
He went out and got a slider. It went right back
nice,
up the
right up the middle. Good piece of hitting.
So I'm going to get back to the catcher conversation in just a second, but I think Johan Rojas deserves a little bit of credit recently.
He's looked good this year.
I think his at-bats have been much better. Like, he's not
he just hit a breaking ball, Tyler.
And he's not getting like, they're still challenging him up in the zone with fastballs like they should. But like, he's not, if he fouls them off to live to see another pitch, that to me is almost enough.
Yeah. He's been, look, you know me, I'm a little bit of a Rojas. I don't want to say hater, but doubter. He's been.
You speak about Rojas the way I speak about Marsh.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair way to put it.
I'm over Marsh, I think. So it'd be great if he could, not continue at this pace he's on. That's unrealistic. But if he can give you 255, I said 260 the other day on Anthony, and can give you some decent at bats, you're thrilled with that.
Because I think, listen, his OBP is never going to be high because pitchers aren't afraid of him.
No.
So they're just going to challenge him. So it's it's like, and I'm going to use this comp, and it's not a fair comp because Ben Revere was a better hitter than him, but it's Ben Revere because, I think Ben Revere was a better hitter than Rojas.
Yeah, you're right. I think he had a couple seasons where he was like up around 290 or something.
Yeah, he had better bat to ball skills, I think.
I just hate. I hate nothing personal, but I hated Ben Revere so much. What do you have? 2 home runs here?
I know he hit one.
He at least had one. I know that. I think he might have snuck in a second one.
But yeah, I think that if Rojas can hit, like you said, in that 250 range and play good defense, not be not make silly mistakes like he made the other night, but he's played some good defense since then. And if he hits 9th, that's I'll take that. I can live with that.
Yeah, definitely. Just getting that speed on the base pass is crucial. You saw it the other night.
And then you turn it over with Stott at the top of the lineup.
Your boy's bouncing back.
He is.
He's bouncing back. Yeah, you're seeing 12 pitch at bats like on the regular here. He's taking some pitches here. I
think people are probably really tired of me giving this number, but Bryson Stott is second in Major League Baseball at pitches seen per plate appearance this year.
All right, so we got second and third, 2 outs. Sorry, I was watching his dribbler down the line.
Only Andy Pages
in baseball in what
pitches per plate appearance.
Wow.
Only Andy Pages from the Dodgers has seen more.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And I think he's a huge reason, not entirely, but he's a huge reason as to why I think the Phillies are 6th in pitches as a team per plate appearance.
Yeah, I think there's been an improvement in the offensive approach.
The adjustment's there for sure.
Yeah. So got to give Kevin Long and the guys some credit there early on. We'll see if it ends up. I do think like once it's a little bit warmer, it'll become hitting season.
Sure, you'll see guys. I think Castellanos will start ambushing a little bit more, but like he's the prime example to me. Like his plate approach looks so much better.
Yeah, it looks good. I think Trey Turner's improved too, and that's probably some of that too. Is just like the electroshock therapy of a lineup change. Like you just kind of like I don't know, you have to change a little bit, especially after the way things ended last year. But like Stott let off a lot at UNLV. So he kind of reverts back to a different way of thinking. And, Trey Turner appears to too. Oh, you're ahead of me.
Wow.
Does that mean wow, a good catch?
Like good
yeah. What a dig by Pete Alonso.
Pete Alonso.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
All right, I'm about to see it.
What are you guys watching this on, by the way? Because I'm so far
I'm a Hulu man.
So
I'm Hulu man.
This is why I come to my mom's to do these shows because she's still got cable.
But occasionally last year, remember, I would be like ahead of you.
Mhm.
Like it was all whack. It's all
I
wacky.
just saw the play. That's crazy. I'm on Hulu too, so like I don't
Heck,
even know.
heck of a. I mean, like it's just tip of the cap to Pete Alonso there.
A little bit of stolen valor on that. You think he had to do all those theatrics?
I mean, maybe embellished a little bit, but
Yeah, I think there might have been a little embellishment there, a little flair. I got to see a replay of that.
Grew up in New York, the flair for the dramatic.
Yeah.
All right, so
let's
get back to this catcher thing for a second, because I think you and I are both
taking the big dumper or JT.
Yeah, you and I are both big Cal Raleigh fans.
Big dumper.
Him, Rutschman, Contreras, as you said. So Patrick Bailey is an elite defensive catcher for the Giants, but he can't hit.
Yeah.
There's not many guys. There's really not.
I mean, Alvarez for the Mets is young. Moreno's still young. Will
Austin
Smith's
Wells
getting
still young.
Yeah, Will Smith's getting up there, but he's not the same offensively as he once was. Sean Murphy and Will Smith are the same age.
I think that obviously up in Kansas City, why am I blank?
Salvi. Salvi won't go away, man. 34 years old.
He's not catching nearly as much anymore. I think that there are not a lot of like surefire offensive threat catchers in baseball right now.
No, not a ton. Salvador Perez might be at 40.
I would almost venture to say the best offensive hitting catcher in baseball right now is Cal Raleigh, and it might not be very close.
Rutschman?
So Rutschman, I think, bounces back, right? Last year, he was clearly hurt. The hand was a mess, and you could tell he just wasn't the same guy in the second half. But the pop that Raleigh has is pretty impressive.
Did you see those big dumper bobbleheads? Were we together when those came? Oh, yeah. They're having the big dumper bobblehead this year.
Is that what they're calling them, too?
It's more like a bobble ass. He's like, I think he's down in a catcher's position with like butt out.
That's where all the weight is?
Yeah. That's where he gets his power from.
Actually jiggle the butt? Or is
yeah.
Like, where's the bobble at?
He twerks at you.
Oh, man, that's great.
Oh, I like Crux Phillies hat there. That's a nice one.
Bottom two. Phil's tied it up in the top of the second. Sanchez back to work through 31 pitches in the first. Griffin Canning is now at, let's find the exact number for you. He's now at 40 through 2. We talked about the plate approach a little bit. Like the Phillies have done a really good job of making opposing starting pitchers throw a lot of innings early in the game, or a lot of pitches early in the game.
Yeah, they have, and they've been attacking bullpens this year, which is a good early sign of things. I said to you this morning it was good to get to even Diaz last night, just to make him throw. Maybe that's something that bears fruit here in games 2 or 3. I didn't see his final pitch count last night, but it had to be 15-ish, 15 to 20. Yeah. So I mean, even in a loss, it was a positive at least.
At least 6 to Turner and Harper, because there was 2 strikeouts.
Yeah.
He ended up throwing 11. So it's not like it was a ton, but to have to get him warmed up, like I think that there's merit.
Yeah, I like the Phillies when they get to a bullpen.
Maybe we're coping a little bit, but
yeah, probably.
Well, and this Mets team has their pitching staff. Their pitching staff has been elite to start the year. I mean, they heading into last night, they had a 2.35 team ERA. Now again, it's you're talking about now you're about an eighth of the way through the season. You're not 6 games in. You're not 10 games in. You're
12%.
You're about 12% done the year, and they're at a 2.3. And I think they were almost 0.5 of a point better than the Padres, who were second. Like this pitching staff has been really good to start the year. The
Mets are having a similar start to the year that the Phillies had last year.
Yes,
like getting great pitching, out in first place and running away with it.
Offense has started to come alive. They've been really predicated on extra base hits. Team average is about like all of their average, their OBP. It's right about league average, but I think they're second in doubles, and they have.
Yeah, remember Bone was crushing doubles early last year. Yeah, that'd be nice if he can start doing that again.
I think he started to put better swings on the ball as of late.
Yeah, what's he got on last night, right? So was that 8 in a row?
Yes. Yeah. So like Pete Alonso, for example, has 16 extra base hits by himself already.
Jeez. Stupid polar bear.
He's got 9 doubles. The triple. Did you see him running the other day? Rounding second, flailing his arms like Jack Sparrow.
Oh, it was hard to watch.
Like Captain Jack Sparrow running the bases.
He got some bad legs.
You ain't got no legs, polar bear.
I thought Kyle Schwarber rounding second and heading to third was bad.
He makes me laugh when he's full sprint.
Yeah.
All right, a walk, not ideal, but let's see if we can get a little double play ball and get out of this.
All right, so Jamie, turn our attention a little bit. As the head of content, you do everything now, as opposed to focusing on a beat. And you still do Eagle stuff, you do Philly stuff with me, you do a lot of stuff. So you're multifaceted. But obviously, this week the big thing is the NFL draft.
Oh yeah.
What do we got going on? What's happening?
We got a lot going on. We got the best coverage in town going on. Zach Berman.
Biased, but I don't disagree.
I mean, Fran Duffy's one of the best in the country, so just by default, it raises the tides of Zach Berman and Bo Wolf. But all 3 days, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, we got wall-to-wall coverage, start of the draft through the end of the draft. Zach is going to be sprinting down to NovaCare to catch up with Howie Roseman after the rounds of the draft. Fran's going to be giving his analysis. Bo's going to be giving his analysis and comedic wit to the broadcast. So they'll be live for like 4 hours to 5.5 hours. And even on Saturday, the real nitty gritty sicko stuff. So they'll be live every day. So we got great coverage. So make sure you're subscribing to PHLY on YouTube. Tell a friend, tell a family member, because I had it on last year, Tyler, when we were just doing the Phillies beat, and like watching that compared to the national broadcast, it wasn't even close. Because, one, I was too screening it, but I wanted Eagles coverage.
Sure.
Damn.
Well, and we have to.
So it was great.
I think one thing we have to do and shout out is the people that aren't on camera, the people that are behind the camera.
Julia, Chris, and Brenna this year, and I think Andrew's helping out on Saturday. And
unbelievable.
It's a full staff event. Everybody does a great job, from the social to the graphics to the coverage itself. So it's going to be awesome. Make sure you're hanging out with us for the NFL draft.
All right, so let me ask you, if you had your druthers and you're Howie Roseman at 32.
You can only have your druthers.
Are you?
Remind you of somebody in radio?
But that's okay.
John Kincaid used to always say that. You can only have your druthers. You can't have somebody else's druthers. I'm like, yeah, all right. Yeah, it's a saying.
So if you were Howie Roseman, are you more inclined to trade up, stay put, or trade back?
You have so many picks over the next 2 years. Like, are you really going to roster 20 draft picks over the next 2 seasons? You're not.
Right.
I'm a little bit of a gambler.
There's a lot of turnover, obviously. Guys are going to walk because they have to pay people. But
I want to go get somebody. I think it's a great time. Plus, you have the Goddard thing, and Zach will talk about it later with you. There is a financial obligation to the other team that takes on Goddard, so it's not like, the most lucrative chip in the world, but it is a chip, and you have so many second rounders and third rounders and compensatory picks coming in. Like, if like Michael Williams falls to like 18 or 19 or 20.
I had a feeling that would be your guy.
Yeah, I think I've settled on him. If he's there around like 19, like go get him. If Colston Loveland is there at 23 and he's like hanging a little bit, go get your guy. If Malachi Starks is there at 23, same range, and you need him, and that's your guy, like go get him. I kind of want to trade up a little bit.
So, I have said throughout the last couple of months that I think they trade down just because it feels like
it's more logical
as the Super Bowl champ.
Ooh,
yeah, this ended up working out. It was a little bit
nice.
It's a good turn by Stott. Stott made a really nice. And Acuna ended up dancing too far off the bag.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I would have done here.
You're not your brother, bruh.
The one thing I would have done here if I was Azokar on first is probably sold out a little bit harder to Stott. Because in the grand scheme of like who matters more on the base paths, Acuna matters more than you do, Azakar, in that particular position. So I don't want to say like I'm not running into an out, but the likely scenario is you're coming away with an out in this scenario, whether it's you or Acuna on third. I think you almost have to do whatever you can to make sure Acuna gets back to third safely.
Yeah, definitely. That's your obligation. You could see he was trying to like lollygag a little bit, and then he saw Stott turn, and he was just like,
you just compounded mistakes there because you already got picked off. Like you've already been picked off of first. So I think you have one of two options. You either sell out hard to second and just keep going, or you need to basically run at Bryson Stott.
Yeah. Damn, I thought Harper might have had that one.
So, I was thinking about that ball that was hit there. There was a couple balls hit down the line yesterday. There is no room at Citi Field. Have you been there? I've never been there.
I haven't, actually. I've been to Yankee Stadium, but not Citi yet.
So I'm curious. So D-Rels is in the chat. He's a Mets fan. Does it feel like you're on top of the field? Like if you're sitting down the lines? Because it almost looks like you're right there. Whereas Citizens Bank Park's a little fuller in terms of like, down the lines, there's a little bit more space.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel tight up there. But what's his name? Cohen is trying to build his whole pervert wonderland up there with the complex outside. What he's trying and the tennis arena, and he's like trying to take over the whole area.
Oh, are they really? They're going to make it a whole like Mets.
Yeah, he wants to make it into like this super, I'm sure, like entertainment complex. I don't know if they can get casinos there or not, but like the tennis, a whole entertainment, like large scale Xfinity Live, mini city. Do you ever watch South Park?
Yeah.
Like Soda Sopa. They're basically trying to build a Soda Sopa out by Citi Field.
Great comparison right there. I love that. Soda Sopa, yeah.
By the way, new South Park's coming out this summer. Should be pretty great. Yeah. Still clicking.
It's gonna be all about Diddy.
Come on, just get out of this.
All right, I'll let you guys. I'm not gonna... So they.
Damn. Oh, come on.
They have not hit a ton of balls hard today.
No, I was just gonna say that.
Up until this past inning.
Kind of want to see a replay of that.
So Azakar's ball was 101 off the bat. And then Lindor was 101 off the bat.
I guess I'll change the graphic. 1 second.
Castellanos, I don't know. Maybe he was further around. I always wish you could see the angle of the guy rounding third. Looked like he could have come up a little harder on that, but he might already.
My guess is you've got, you're running
probably
on contact.
Rounding third.
Yeah, you're running on contact, obviously. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm a big believer in transparency and telling you when I don't know a lot about a player. I don't know a lot about Jose Azocar. I won't lie to you and say that I do.
The hell's wrong with you?
He has 13 stolen bases over the last 2 years. I'm trying to find like his sprint speed. Okay. 91st percentile in sprint speed last year, 97th percentile in sprint speed the year before. Guy's fast.
Yeah. D-Rel's, confirmed what I was saying. He said he wants to get rid of the junkyards in the area. So I haven't even really been to the area, but I've heard it's a little bit like run down.
So that includes the stadium, right? Junkyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. It looks like a nice stadium, man. I don't know. It looks like a stadium. My
Mets buddies have said like it's okay. I believe. Right. I don't know if they love it. I think they just like it,
So, and I think when it comes to stadiums, we're pretty spoiled. CBP is beautiful.
I asked you about Nat Stadium. I went there at Nat Stadium. I was just like, how'd you like it? And you're like,
it's a ballpark.
It's okay. And I was like, same.
Yeah, CBP was ranked the best ballpark in America.
You pay for it.
I'm surprised that it was best, but I'm not surprised that it's up there because it's sneakily 21 years old.
Yep.
Like it caught
that's
up
kind of wild,
right? Like, so it's 21 years old, and I don't think there's any signs of it slowing down. They keep it up.
Middleton was talking about the minority ownership, and part of that was to get fluidity to do necessary upgrades to it.
Yeah, and they
that end to Clearwater.
They had the light show this year. They had the new scoreboard's relatively new. It is a beautiful ballpark. I mean,
by the way, the new scoreboard. I know you like your stats and everything, but do we really can we throw it back a little bit here?
I had to turn around to somebody last year.
I don't even know what one or two of those things are.
Explain like 4 different stats to them, and I felt like a JO because I was like, "This is." They were talking about the guy's like, "Dude, I love baseball. What the hell is WAOBOXON?" And I'm like, well, it's actually weighted on base percentage, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, bro, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. But you're right. Like, I saw that post. Who was it? It was Mike Meach, I think, tweeted it.
Yeah.
Like, there is a point where it goes too far because the casual fan and even your diehard fan wants to see give you a slash line, batting average, OBP, slugging, stat home runs, doubles, extra base hits, the RBIs, that kind of stuff. And then if you want to go to OPS plus, or if you want to go to WAR, even though I don't love WAR, but if you want to go to WAR, you start adding in WXO bacon or whatever it is.
Your average fan does not need Waxobacan. Right. All right. Like, let's just chill out here. Just give me some splits. Give me a righty lefty. Give me something.
What is FIP going to do for the guy sitting in 420?
Nothing. Yeah. It's the most confusing board sometimes. You have no idea.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
Oh, what's his independent fielding percentage? Oh, God, I didn't know it was that high.
The only thing that works for me is if I'm at the ballpark and I'm tweeting from the account, like, I'm all right, I could use these to my advantage because I have you and I, Jamie, like you and I use Baseball Savant every day. Like I have that up all the time. So I can see those in the game. The only thing that I use it for is my advantage for like stat purposes. But you're right. Like the average fan watching the game does not.
Let's dumb it down here. Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid. That's a motto I use throughout my life.
You guys like the new upgrades that they made to the stadium this year with the lights when they get a home run, like the Xfinity thing, or like the digital board behind home plate now?
I missed the out of town scoreboard. And I know this is the second season of it, and they slide it in between innings. I miss it. I think it's like classic baseball stadium.
I miss the light bulbs going off.
Yeah.
Walking into the ballpark and being a nerd and being like, okay, 93 versus 42. Who's pitching to? Well, 42's 42's retired.
Digital brick? What is digital brick?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Why they did that.
Yeah. That was probably unnecessary.
Jamie, you mind hanging with us for one more inning?
Yeah, definitely. Harper's
all right, cool. Top 3. Phil's down 2-1. So one thing we didn't talk about with you yet is we talked about it a little bit is Aaron Nola. And he's kind of taken the vitriol of the city, and his ERA is not good, and he's 0-5. He's just, to me, the one thing that's really frustrating me is he's not throwing enough first pitch strikes. And that's something that that's a huge portion of his game is he's like 66% throughout his career. This year, I think he's at like 57. It's a substantial drop. And I think that's causing a lot of his problems is because he's having to battle back from down in counts.
Oh, Harper. Yeah, that's a good observation by you. I think that's an astute observation there, Tyler. Yeah, I don't know. He looks is his velocity. I haven't looked at his velocity yet. Is it down a little bit? It feels like it's down a little bit.
It's down to like 90, 91 and a half, I want to say.
And he hangs in the 92s, right?
He's down to 90.6 now.
Yeah, it looks slower. So
yeah, for sure.
I think I watched a little bit of his locker interview last night, and he was alluding to like feeling fine, but I think he did mention like, maybe I felt a little better as I got going. Maybe the speed will pick up some, but I think, look, he hasn't gotten the run support. His ERA is what it is. There's no changing that, but yeah, this is not an ideal start for that contract.
Yeah, I think yesterday, blaming Nola for yesterday's loss is kind of, I don't want to say it's not entirely unfair because, he
No.
ends up getting saddled with 4 earned runs, but they had 3 hits heading into the 9th. They had 1 off of McGill. They struck out 15 times. He had 10 of them. The offense did not help them out at all yesterday.
Yeah, I shared it in our Discord last night. His last 5 starts and the run support he's gotten. I don't think it was more than, I think once he got 4 and it was 0, 1, 1 and a 0 or something. It's bad. Last night should have kept you more in the game than it did. Jose Ruiz comes in and just,
I mean, you're down 2-0. You're down 2-0 heading into the top of the 7th. That is a
belt
very
high hanger. Jose Ruiz, I'm done with him.
And we talked a lot about him last year, where he
showed some promise.
He was really good in that 6th inning role. The problem is, I think they're having to ask him to do more.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and Jeff Hoffman's lighting the world on fire. But yeah, Nola's gonna get it whether he's good or bad. He just is a natural polarizing figure from this team, and people, he's gonna get the ire of people, and he's here for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of years left on that deal.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie. While we're in the middle of an inning, why don't we take a moment to pause? And we'll tell you about some of our friends here over at PHLY. All right, let's start with our friends over at Ashley Furniture because the low prices are blooming, and you can spring into savings right now at Ashley and save up to 50% off living rooms, bedrooms, and dining rooms. And the best part is you can have it all delivered to you for free. I had a couple of pieces of bedroom furniture delivered just a couple of weeks ago from Ashley, and they were in and out of my apartment in about 5 minutes. And we're up the steps, so we're on the 2nd floor, so it's not like it's an easy turn. And we have one of those landings where it's 8 or 9 steps up and then a landing and then 2 or 3 more with a guardrail right there. It's a really tight spot to fit, and the guys delivered it seamlessly. And the furniture is beautiful. So we really are happy with the work that they did, and we're happy with the furniture that we picked up because it makes our bedroom look like 2 adults live there instead of 2 college kids at this point. So I can firsthand tell you that Ashley's Furniture is they deliver on those promises. Plus, you can get long-term, no-interest financing and save on top-brand mattresses, including, as we said, free delivery setup and removal. So don't wait. Spring into savings right now at Ashley, South Jersey, and Philadelphia. Financing with approved credit, minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. Hurry to Ashley. Visit ashleyfurniture.com for more information. And here we go. Let me tell you about our friends over at Bet365, our presenting sponsor of tonight's show, because 90 million users worldwide had gotten in on Bet365. Our friend Jamie Lynch, who's with us right now, is our Bet365 betting guru, our analyst, if you will. And he's on Bet365 all the time. And so are other 90 million other people, because they live stream 780,000 live events each year. They have the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. So you never have to just watch the game. You can put a couple of dollars in on the game and have some fun in on it as well. And check this out. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. So sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit just $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 back in bonus bets, win or lose. Bonus money can be bet on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, Tyler, Phillies minus or plus 165 right now on Bet365. Sorry to jump on you there, but I wanted to get the live action in. You in or out?
We got a problem here, Jamie.
Uh-oh.
Cristopher Sanchez is out of the game.
Yeah, that's not good.
This is a problem. Cristopher Sanchez departs after.
What just happened?
The Phillies bullpen's going to have to get 21 outs tonight.
What is going on?
I'm going to have to go to X where everything's happening. Find out what's going on here. Oh, boy. That's not good.
Is there an injury or did we?
Yeah.
I would think so.
So this is the second time a Philly starter in the last week has exited the game early. Taijuan Walker only goes 4 on Saturday. Shoulder issues. They said it's nothing serious, but he did have to miss He only threw 56 pitches and missed the rest of the game. And now Cristopher Sanchez is out of the game after 2 innings. He threw.
Yikes.
Let me see how many minutes. Yeah, 58 pitches. Yep. And guys, like the velocity was down a little bit today. Max velocity was at 96. He was only throwing about 94. Hopefully.
Guess he lost an inch.
And leadoff base hit for Pete Alonso. So here we are.
Your watch along just got a lot more interesting. Poor Charlie Devon and Zach Berman. They're going to have to deal with 3 innings of Joe Ross watch along. Jose Ruiz for 2 1/3.
Jamie, do you remember the watch along that we did last year where it was a Friday night and it was a West Coast game against the Mariners?
Yeah.
And Tyler Phillips got rocked.
Yeah.
And
Phillies are now plus 190 with Cristopher Sanchez out.
We were like, can we start post game now? It's the 4th inning. Can we leave?
There was one point where we did a West Coast game. We were just like, all right, we're starting the post game in like the 7th inning. There's no chance here.
There's no reason. Yeah, there was no reason to it. And I think this might be a long night for the bullpen. The Phillies really needed some length from Cristopher Sanchez tonight. Now, hopefully this is not a serious injury. Hopefully this is a precautionary thing. We'll keep you updated as we can to find something out, but doesn't look like anything's been updated so far.
No, just a lot of people. Yeah, nothing yet. Just everybody just kind of communally like, oh God, hope he's not really hurt. And I can't listen. I'll text you when I put Kruk and McCarthy on. Maybe they get it first.
Yeah. And you know, I don't think he had his best stuff today. Obviously, command wasn't there. Had given up some hard contact in that last inning. Had 102 off the bat of Jose Azocar, 101 off the bat of Francisco Lindor. Had given up a little bit more hard contact that second inning, but definitely concerning for a team who A's bullpen has been awful and B has certainly been taxed a lot over the last couple of games.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see some fresh arms coming up over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so my question,
because they need something fresh back there.
My question is, like, if you're looking for a reliever, it's probably Max Lazar would be my guess.
Yeah,
but if they're looking for some length, they may end up turning to Nabil Krismet because he's a starter. But like, A, do you want to take him out of the starter role, and B, they have to add him to the 40. He's not currently.
Yeah, and it looks like Ranger's going to make his last rehab start on Sunday in Lehigh. So Taiwan will be able to help out in that long role. So maybe they do think more reliever type.
Yeah.
We're excited about Taiwan Walker, aren't we, folks?
Well, and I will say this: we've talked about this plenty.
He's been good.
He's been really good. The one bad inning, the 6-run inning in the second against the Giants. But other than that, he has a 0.5 ERA in every other inning this season.
That's all you can ask for. He was a sunk cost, so like anything you can get from him is great.
All right, Jamie, we're in the bottom of the 3rd here. Why don't we expand the team a little bit and add a 3rd member to the broadcast? Because
I watched a very memorable Phillies game with this man in the stands behind home plate 2 years ago.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, the Stott game.
Yep, that is right. We were with Charlie for that game as well.
Yeah.
That was fun. Memorable times.
That was fun. That was fun.
So, all right. So let's expand the crew just a little bit. Jamie, we'll let you go in a moment as well. I appreciate you taking some time. But let's expand it to a 3-man show from the PHLY Flyers podcast, and of course our PHLY Flyers lead beat writer as well, and a baseball fan. And I love that about Charlie because he gets to be a baseball fan because you are an elite writer, an elite cover of hockey, but you just get to be a baseball fan, and that's amazing. What's up, Charlie?
How's it going, guys? Good to be here.
Well, it was going.
The Sanchez news a little alarming. Hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, there's no confirmation this is anything other than he just didn't have it tonight, right? Like no injuries?
No, haven't seen anything just yet. Velo was down, command was down, so maybe this is just precautionary. But we were just talking about it, Charlie. Like, this bullpen's been taxed quite a bit, and it's not very good right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I do trust. I mean, aside from the obvious guy, I do trust most of the guys at the back end of the bullpen. I don't trust any of the guys at the front end of the bullpen. And this is a game where we're going to have to now see all of those guys.
So
Yeah,
Joe Ross, I would presume.
Romano's warming up, by the way.
Ooh, oh boy, yeah, he's the guy I was talking about that I don't trust even a little bit at the back of the bullpen.
Buckle
or at least
up.
The guy he was expected to be at the back of the bullpen to start this year, not anymore.
So it looks like Joe Ross is gonna. Oh nope, I thought he was gonna roll up a double play. Not quite out of the inning just yet. Marte beats it out. So you're gonna see Joe Ross probably. Maybe he only goes an inning today, but I can't imagine that being the case. You're gonna see him for an inning or two. And then you'll probably see Romano, as you brought up, and then Hernandez, and probably a fan in section 420 at some point.
Yeah.
This is going to be a long night.
Timmy Trumpets is going to come out for us. It's
Get
like the emergency
they were
goalie in
home,
hockey.
the arm loose.
Yeah.
They're still in this game. It's only 2-1. They could score a lot of runs too, even if the bullpen stinks.
Yeah, it'd be nice if the offense could wake up a little bit here in New York.
Yeah.
So Charlie, as your season unfolds, and we'll talk more about the Flyers in the next inning with you. As your season unfolds and you kind of turn your attention to the Phillies, what has been your perception of this team so far? 13-10, struggles are where they are, but what has your perception been of this team so far?
Yeah, I think kind of where I'm at is that I'm not yet ready to panic yet, although I'm very concerned about the bullpen. The bats are one of those things where it's like, I wish they were hitting better. I wish multiple guys were hitting better because I have 3 Philadelphia Phillies on my fantasy team, and none of them are doing particularly well. Well, three hitters. I have actually 5 Phillies on my team, but the 2 pitchers I have, Wheeler and Luzardo, are doing great. It's the hitters who I need more from. But I like the change in approach. I like that they are at least seemingly doing something to address what went wrong in the playoffs. They are being more selective. They're not chasing as many pitches. I like that. And I do think that hopefully over a large sample will pay dividends, and they will eventually get rewarded for changing up their approach and not swinging at literally everything if it's even remotely close to the strike zone. So I like that, and I'm willing to give that time. The bullpen terrifies me, though, because it's not like they're just going to be able to like snap their fingers and make a good pitcher appear. Like this is kind of who they have, at least until you get closer to the deadline, and that's a long ways away.
Speaking of fantasy baseball, we have gotten intel on you, Charlie, and Jamie. We talked to Pat Egan about this.
Yeah, we got an insider on Charlie's fantasy baseball league
by a very reputable source that you are absolutely cutthroat in the fantasy baseball drafting world.
Oh yeah. I want my players. It's a high stakes league.
You guys are an auction league, is it?
Oh yeah. It's a $100 auction league, and you could sign guys up to 2-year contracts. So I've been in this league since 2009. It's mostly old dudes. Like it's basically me, Pat, and then Pat's uncle, and then a bunch of Pat's uncle's friends.
Oh, I didn't know that was the league. That's so funny.
Yeah. So they're like 15, 20 years older than us.
That's great.
So I take it very seriously. I want to embarrass these old men.
I respect it enormously. Because when I go into these events, now I'm not a big fantasy baseball player, but fantasy football, like if I'm doing this to win. This isn't fun. I mean, it is fun, but winning is fun. And so I respect it enormously that you take this as seriously as you do.
See, the problem with Pat in this league is that he's usually bad. So then he gets angry that I'm not usually bad. I've had my bad years. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I'm not going to say I'm winning every year, but I would say my career average in this league, career finishing average, is significantly better than that of Pat.
Shots fired.
So I could see you and Pat being the type of guys that are like kind of sniping each other's picks. Where like I've got this guy teed up for the 17th round, and Pat's like, I'm going to take him, or you do the inverse.
Well, the reason why that does happen, it doesn't happen as much as you think, but it does happen, is because we're the only two Phillies fans in the league. They actually, we just recently invited a third Phillies fan in the league, but he wasn't at the draft this year. He's going to start next year because he had to take over from an owner who did not show up to the draft, which is always infuriating.
Oh, great.
But we definitely end up going into bidding wars for Phillies. Like, I probably could have gotten Zach Wheeler in like the mid 12 range. Instead, I had to pay $14 because Pat decided he wanted Zach Wheeler too. And I ended up with a lot of Phillies this year, and it is fun to have Phillies, but I generally try to avoid Phillies because I don't feel like overpaying for them, because I know Pat will overpay for a lot of them. I wanted Zach Wheeler because Zach Wheeler, out of all the pitchers that were available, was by far the most reliable of all of them in terms of innings. And in we use quality starts instead of wins in this league. And he's a quality start machine because he's one of the few pitchers who still pitches deep into games in Major League Baseball. So I decided like he was going to be the anchor of my staff. And then, of course, Pat decides he wants him too. So we have to go into a friggin', I have to pay an extra $2 because Pat decided he wanted Zach Wheeler. I'm infuriated.
All right. Jamie Lynch, you are the absolute best. And I know you got dad duty, so I don't want to keep you terribly long. You gave us more time than I could have possibly asked for.
Oh, of course.
So, I appreciate you. Thank you for keeping us company because this might be a 3-hour game tonight. All right.
If you need me later, just shoot a text. I got a meeting at 9, but I'll hop on if you need me.
A meeting at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time?
we got a great charitable
time?
We have a great charitable effort coming in the coming days, and we're just having one last meeting to make sure all of our ducks are in a row here. So it's for a good cause, so I'm happy to do it.
All right,
but
Jamie,
yes, 9 p.m. meeting.
You are the best. Good luck at the meeting. We will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you.
Yeah, let's go, Phils.
See you, Jamie.
See you guys.
All right. We got Max Kepler on base.
So
all right.
Kepler's been intriguing, Charlie, because he has hit the ball hard quite a bit this year and had some unfortunate balls hit right at guys.
Yes.
And then over the last couple of weeks, or over the last couple of days, he's hit a couple of balls hard down the line, a couple extra base hits. I still am in the camp that Kepler was a good signing compared to what they were facing outside of Kepler with the money that they had the ability to spend.
I would agree with that. I don't think he was a bad signing. I think he was a good bet, especially given the price. And I agree with you. I think his production will get better as the year goes on. He's actually one of the 5 hitters, or one of the 5 Phillies that I have. I have Kepler. I picked him up, but he was a guy who I ran out of money in the draft. So I was going to pick him for 10 cents, and I ended up just having to pay a pickup fee to get him after the draft got done. But I feel pretty good about Kepler. I think it's just with Kepler, it's disappointing because I wanted a better version of him in the offseason. And look, I understand the financial constraints. I get it. That doesn't mean I have to like it. It's not my money. I would have no problem if they blasted past a luxury tax threshold because I want to watch good baseball. So I don't care that, there's a reason. I get it. Objectively, rationally, I get it. But I did want a better player in that position than Max Kepler. Now, given the restraints they're under, Kepler's a decent choice. And I think I think he's going to finish with something like 20 home runs and, a 250 batting average, something like that. Nothing incredible, probably an OPS in the high 700s.
Which
so
I think
I'm not expecting him to be great. Yeah, but he'll be fine.
In today's game for $10 million, I think that's a fair return on investment.
Yeah.
Because contracts are so inflated for a lot of guys now, especially once they hit the open market, that I think for $10 million, that's a fair return on investment. But I get your, the feel for the need for upside. Because I think the one thing that I've been trying to talk a lot about this offseason specifically was I don't think Dombrowski and Middleton care about the money portion of the luxury tax. I think they care about the draft pick portion of it. And they were, I think, $3 or $4 million away from being in that 10, slide 10 spots in the draft because you were spending X amount of dollars. And I really don't think they wanted to do that because they're already picking, 24, 25, 26 in that late 20 range because they've been good, that I think they don't want to fall into the mid 30s if they don't have to.
Yeah, you might be right. That might be the reason. I mean, I tend to be of the opinion that probably it's always about money because I'm cynical, but maybe it could have been the draft pick thing. Obviously, the draft is extremely important in any sport. I mean, I'm about to spend 2 months obsessing over for the Flyers for the NHL because the Flyers are going to have a very high pick. So I get it if that plays into it, but look, I'm a fan. I want to see the best possible team.
Mhm.
And while I'm not mad that Max Kepler's on this team, I would have wanted somebody better. That would have been cool.
So you are, I think, the right guy to talk about the money side of things because of your analytic approach to sports in general. The CBA is about to end in 2026. We've got a year and a half still, but the conversation has surrounded salary cap versus salary floor. And I'm intrigued as somebody who covers a league with a salary cap and a league that has had a flat salary cap basically for 3 or 4 seasons now. Where do you stand on the idea of a floor versus a cap versus like open market capitalism in baseball?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't hate the way it is now in theory. The thing that annoys me the most about the way it is now is the teams that just don't spend any money. Like that is the big I am fine with a luxury tax style. I am. I like the fact that teams can spend as much as they theoretically want, but then, it all goes back in the pot if they go over certain thresholds. I don't dislike that. I probably like that from a like philosophical standpoint better than I like the NHL, the way they do it. But I do like that the NHL, that the teams that don't make a ton of money, they do have to reach a certain floor because it's infuriating watching teams in MLB just basically live off of revenue sharing.
Mhm.
Like teams that just, they're not going to spend any money. And that's yeah, it's infuriating for me to watch. Like, they shouldn't be living off of the big teams making tons of money. I want them to spend more money. I think that the players deserve it. I don't like that, but I hate I don't hate it. Like if the MLB agrees to a salary cap, like I'm not going to stop watching baseball,
Sure.
but I wouldn't be like super into the idea of a salary cap because I've seen what it does to the NHL. The NHL is a hard cap. Like, the NFL, it's a salary cap world, but the contracts aren't guaranteed. You can push money. NHL is a hard cap.
And the NBA is barely real. Like the
Yeah,
cap in the NBA, you can go over $1 billion if you want to re-sign your own players. So it's barely real in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic across
Yeah.
the three that have one.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to act like I know how the NBA works. I'll leave that to Derek and Kyle.
All right, so when it comes to these teams, my argument was the poor teams, right? The ones that cry poor
Right.
are going to claim we want if you're going to make us have a salary floor, we want a salary cap for the Dodgers and the Mets and the Phillies and things like that.
Sure.
And then the teams that are willing to spend money, like those Dodgers, Mets, Phillies, etc., are going to say, well, why should we be hampered in spending the money? We're willing to do it and pay the fine and pay the tax.
Right.
And that, to me, when owners fight owners, that's where lockouts happen. And that's my big concern.
Yeah, I mean, I want to watch baseball. I don't want, and I lived through it multiple times in hockey. I lived through a season that got lost when I was a teenager. I was covering the sport when they lost half a season in the early 2010s. So it stinks. It's miserable. Especially for someone who, is obsessed with. I mean, I am obviously obsessed with hockey. It's my job, but I love baseball. I love being able to watch the Phillies during the summer when I no longer have to be obsessing over the Flyers every single day for like 7 months. It would be miserable if there was a lockout. What I will say is that going back to when the NHL implemented a salary cap, they had to lock the players out for a year to get it. And they were united enough as a group, the owners were, under Gary Bettman, that they were willing to sacrifice an entire season in order to get a salary cap. Do you think the owners in baseball are that adamant about getting a salary cap to be willing to do that?
No, I don't think so. It's a really good point. I don't think so because I think baseball, first of all, we know baseball's done a terrible job of marketing itself. It's
Sure.
It's thrown itself under the bus more times than it would like to admit. And I think the last time baseball had a strike in 94, it was really hard to bring fans back. And I think it was in part kind of cultivated the steroid era.
Yeah.
And if baseball were to strike, I think it might be, I don't want to say a death knell because it's a multi-billion-dollar league, but I think it would be a really difficult sell to come back for your casual fan.
Yeah, it would be tough. And it was tough for hockey. Hockey, when they came out of the lockout, they were on, it wasn't even, if you remember the channel Versus, it wasn't even the channel Versus when they came back. It was the Outdoor Life Network, OLN. That was the network that they were on when they came out of the lockout. It was bad. And they are very lucky. The hockey version of the steroid era was kind of Crosby and Ovechkin. And they sort of single-handedly drove fan interest back up because you have these two, legendary all-time greats. Ovechkin just broke the goal record this year. Crosby's probably a top 10 player in league history, I would say. That helped. If they hadn't had those guys, it would have been even worse. And it wasn't good for a while.
Yeah, I think two generational players will certainly help fuel that back. All right, let's talk a little Flyers because you're here. Bill Matz is going to join us shortly as well. So let's talk a little Flyers as you head to the offseason. I think most fans wanted, what had kind of transpired over the last few weeks of the year, which was get the better draft pick, get the better draft pick, get the better draft pick. And then John Tortorella gets fired. Bradshaw comes in. They go on a little winning streak. And then all of a sudden people are, whoa, what's happening? And then they lose the final game of the year to secure their spot in the draft lottery. Looking at this draft, to you, like what is primary need number one, and what do you think the Flyers' best kind of course of action is for this draft and this offseason?
Well, their big need is a center, and I'm not saying it's their only need. Like if they have the opportunity, if they draft first overall, I would expect them to take Matthew Schaefer, who is probably the consensus number one, and he's a defenseman. But you can always, the Flyers don't have a true number one defenseman. They could certainly use one, so I think they would probably pull that trigger. The position of biggest need that they have is center. Not only because they're weak down the middle, but also because you really, really at some point need to get Matvei Mishkov, a center who is worthy of his talents. Like right now, Sean Couturier was his best center this year, and I really like Sean Couturier. He's a darn solid player. I've liked him for years. I've been a big fan. Hit his peak, he was a Selke guy. He's not that guy anymore. He's a 45, 50 point at best guy. Good player. Perfectly fine if he's in your middle six, but he's not the 1C that Matvei Mishkov needs to fully unlock his talent. They need to get that guy. Now, is it going to come in this draft? I don't know. There are a lot of centers available. Are any of them that superstar 1C? A lot of them have that upside. Doesn't mean they're going to get there, but this is an opportunity for the Flyers to get a true blue chip prospect at the most important position, most important skating position, I guess you could call it, because goalie is probably the most important position, period. But this is an opportunity for you to get a blue chip prospect at the most important skating position in the game at center. There are going to be guys available. There's Michael Misa if they jump up in the lottery. There's guys like, Anton Frondell, Roger McQueen, Caleb Desnoyers, James Hagans. There's a lot of guys in that range who will be available for the Flyers. They have the fourth worst record. They could jump up to 1 or 2. They could fall back to 5 or 6, but they're going to pick in the top 6 regardless. Those guys are going to be available. Now it just kind of comes down to whether they pick the right one.
So we'll get back to the Flyers in just a second. Some good news out of Phillies pitching staff tonight, not revolving around Cristopher Sanchez. No update there yet. But Ranger Suarez had a really successful start with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs tonight. 5 innings, 2 hits, 5 Ks, 59 pitches to get through 5 innings, 40 of them strikes. I would bet Charlie he probably makes one more, and then we're thinking about Ranger probably rejoining the team sometime next week.
I would hope so. I mean, I'm not even going to go so far as to say they've missed him a ton, because Walker has been okay, better than I think anybody expected him to be. But I want Ranger back. He's a good pitcher, and you're waiting for the floor to really fall out from under Taijuan Walker. Like you are. We've seen what he's done over the last few years. To get Ranger back before he turns back into a pumpkin, before Walker does, would be huge. And I just like watching Ranger. He's a really good pitcher.
Yeah, I think that the conversation around Ranger the last couple of days and maybe the week or so has been, well, does maybe Ranger move to the bullpen? It's a bullpen that's really struggling. Could you maybe see him take a bullpen role? I think the answer to that question to me is no, not because I don't think Ranger wouldn't do it, although in a contract year with Scott Boras, maybe his agent says, buddy, you're a starter.
It's a fair point.
But I think Ranger is his success, his track record as a starter over the last couple of years has kind of proven to me that I'm a big believer in you don't lose your spot due to injury. There's rare examples like Tom Brady steps in for Drew Bledsoe, right? But like, I believe you don't lose your spot due to injury. I think Ranger, while I think it would be more beneficial to the entirety of the team for him to maybe slide into the bullpen for a little bit to buoy this bullpen that's really struggled, I think you're going to see him move back into the starting rotation.
I think you will too. And look, I get it. I get the argument for putting him in the bullpen. I just think his arsenal and his just entire mentality, it just works better as a starter, I think. I mean, I think back to that, I don't even want to think back to it, but the final game of the Phillies Mets playoff series last October. I've never seen a pitcher get as much out of as little as Ranger had.
Agree.
Before watching that. Like, he had nothing. He had nowhere near his best stuff. He was running on fumes. And every inning, the bases were loaded and he found a way out of it.
Yeah, I think he ended up giving you like 4 1/3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And heading into that game, my expectations were, can he get through the lineup once?
Yeah.
And for him to have gotten you 13 or 14 outs was more than I could have possibly asked for in that start.
I want that guy in the rotation. I do. I want that mentality in the rotation because I think it's really valuable. In the end, the bullpen, it stinks. It's a bummer. And they need to do something about it. And I don't know if they can do anything about it in the short term. So Ranger would be a Band-Aid. But I just think that the longer you roll with Taijuan Walker, the more chance you give him to blow up. And slot Ranger in for Walker. I think that's the right move. And if you have 5 good pitchers, I mean, with whatever the heck Nola has been so far this year, but I do still think he's at least a good pitcher. I think he will get better, I hope.
You sure hope so.
If you can't improve the bullpen dramatically, maybe your best move is just to try to get your starters to go 6 innings every night, because once you get past, if you can get 6 innings out of guys like Alvarado, obviously we trust. Strom and Kerkering, I know they've had their bad games so far, but I still mostly trust those guys. It's everybody else who I don't. So if you can have 5 starting pitchers that make it so those 3 guys are the guys they're the only guys who pitch most nights, maybe you can survive until the deadline.
Wasn't that kind of not to say the bullpen was going to be this bad, but wasn't that kind of the plan?
Yeah.
Regardless how they set this rotation up.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking Ranger, is healthy to start the year. He wasn't, but you're thinking he is. You're expecting Nola to be a little bit better than he's been, probably a lot of it better than he's been. But you established a rotation of 5 guys who, you are expecting minimum 15 outs a night from, but you're thinking more closer to the 18 or 20 range.
I would agree. I think that was their plan. Obviously, they were expecting more out of Romano, but maybe he figures it out at some point. Maybe he doesn't. Now you're left with 3 bullpen guys who you feel good about. Again, I expect they're going to make some bullpen moves at the deadline, but nobody makes trades at this point of the year. That's the frustrating part. I have that argument with people in hockey where it's like, well, why don't they just trade for somebody in mid-November? It's like, well, it happens sometimes, but it's pretty rare.
And I think the thing is, people looked at the Braves and they went, well, they just got Rafael Montero. Why don't you make a move? And it was like, the April trade never happens.
Yeah, it's rare.
All right, let's expand the coverage here a little bit, Charlie. Can't thank you enough for your time, but let's go to a 3-man shot for just a little bit. And welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast, and a baseball man in his own right. One of the 90s baseball men that I enjoy talking with, but from the PHLY Sixers podcast, my buddy Devon Givens. What's up, D?
Stolen bases, man. 90s.
I know every time you and I talk about baseball, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, "I missed the stolen base."
Well, it's back a little bit, so I'm good with it. Yeah, I'm good.
Update, by the way, Chris O just puts it up. Chris Sanchez left tonight's game with left forearm soreness.
That's very concerning.
Yeah, not great. And as we talked about, Charlie and Devon, we were just talking about it right before you got on, was velo was down a little bit tonight. Command wasn't particularly good. Hopefully a precautionary thing, but he was not nearly as sharp as he had been in his first couple starts.
No, close to 30 pitches in the first inning, and you can just see that he wasn't necessarily getting the spots that he wanted to get to, and as you said, the velocity was down, and also, yeah. But as I was listening to you guys coming in, and Charlie talking about, it's a good problem to have. Where if Ranger Suarez is coming back, you hope that if Sanchez has to miss a little bit of time, that you maybe get one or two more starts out of Walker that will hold things up for a little bit while Ranger Suarez does come back, kind of takes the spot of Sanchez until that time. So somewhat of a good problem to have.
Yeah, I just every time I see forearm soreness, I just worry about the elbow.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I hope that it's precautionary. You know, that's
Sure.
what I think. I think that's what we're all hoping for tonight. Because you need to get, you know, at least for tonight's sake, you needed to get 18 outs out of the bullpen now, or 21 outs out of the bullpen now, and then you're thinking about, you know, the short term future, at least for his next start.
Yeah.
Charlie, can't thank you enough for joining us today. Don't want to keep you for too long, but really appreciate you joining us. Check Charlie O'Connor out. Are you guys live tomorrow? Have you guys officially made your move yet?
We have not made our move to 12 p.m. That'll be next week. We have 4 p.m. shows the rest of this week, and then we move to 12 p.m. for the offseason.
And PHLY Flyers draft lottery show, I believe, is happening.
Yes,
next week.
Draft lottery party is in 2 weeks. I believe it's
weeks,
May 5th is when we're having. That's when the draft lottery happens, and that's when we find out where the Flyers pick in the top 6. Hopefully, it's as early as possible.
Well, two teams getting set to pick in the draft lottery between the Flyers and the Sixers. Charlie, can't thank you enough. Check out the PHLY Flyers podcast with Charlie and Bill at 4:00 tomorrow. Thanks so much for your time, Charlie. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Have fun, Devon.
Thanks, man. See you.
All right, Devon. Me and you now for this 5th inning here.
Yeah.
Overall, so the first thing before we get into the Sixers, because we'll talk about the Sixers as well. But overall tonight, and overall your thoughts as this team has kind of progressed through the first 23 games or so. 13-10, pitching's been good. Starting pitching at least has been good. Your thoughts overall about how this team has fared through the first 7 or so series?
Yeah, disappointing because at 13-10 right now through the 23, I remember, paying attention to your show when you were doing this at the start of the year, and pointing out how they, whether it's following the Twitter account PHLY_Phillies or watching your show, and just talking about how, hey, they're just doing their job, they're taking the series, and that's what's important. Yeah, you're going to drop a game here or there, and all, and they look like they were off to a really good start. Now, look, they're still in second place. They're not too far behind the Mets, and they're playing these guys tonight, playing them again tomorrow, so they can chip away here. But disappointing because the pitching staff, to your point, the starting pitchers have been really good. Questions about Nola with the 0-5, on with VG this morning. He's saying he hasn't been as bad. Sure, he hasn't been as bad, but it's been enough for him to be 0-5 and not do the things that he needs to do, and maybe get some more run support and all that stuff as well. But the bullpen, even when it happened this offseason, and we talked about Jeff Hoffman leaving and some of those moves that were made, you wonder what they were going to do once they lost him. They didn't do enough, and that's been a problem for them. As good as they have been these last few seasons, getting to the World Series, getting to the NLCS, and getting knocked out early last year against this Mets team, even when they felt like they were stacked, Ty, I know we talked about it a lot, even though it felt like I would have my issues with this one guy, you would have your issues with one guy, and there were others who had issues with 2 guys. So it was never really comfortable once they got past the starting rotation and got into the bullpen, especially in the games where you had a lead and you're trying to hold on and cling to a 2-run lead, maybe in the 8th or the 7th. And it became problematic where, again, they just weren't good enough. And even the ones that were good, like Alvarado, for when he had his issues, Jeff Hoffman would have his issues. A few years ago, there were others that had their issues in the bullpen. It's just a constant thing with them that you just hope that they can find a solution for it, where once we do get to September and October and the playoffs start to get underway, that it's no longer much of a problem. It's just more of, hey, can they do it in the postseason? Not that they haven't been good once they got to the postseason.
So speaking of the bullpen, one guy that you and I have talked a lot about over the last couple of years is Matt Strahm.
Yeah.
And Strahm has been excellent for the last 2 seasons. And my issue now has become, as you bring up Alvarado and Strahm and Kerkering, those 3 guys are being asked to shoulder a lot of, if not all of the load of the back end of the bullpen. And like, they're going to be taxed quite a bit by the time June and July rolls around. And so Charlie and I were talking about it. We've talked about it plenty. Like, reinforcements will come because they can't not, right? The bullpen's just too bad for them not to bring some semblance of a trade in or something along those lines. Or maybe it's, even if Painter doesn't start right away and Painter comes in as like, whatever the case may be, the reinforcements are coming. Mm-hmm. But those three guys are going to get crushed into the ground if this continues to trend in that direction, where they're the only three guys that you trust in high leverage situations.
Yeah, and right now those are the only three guys that you have some sort of trust in. And you bring up the strong part where we talk about it. He's one for the people who don't follow the Sixers and don't necessarily watch our show as much and don't know my thoughts. He scares the heck out of me all the time, and I'm always telling Tyler, yeah, he scares the heck out of me. I understand, good for him. He made the All-Star team, and he does get the job done at times, but he also freaks me out when it comes to those high leverage situations when he's on the mound, and you really need to feel comfortable with the guy being out there on the mound. He does not do that for me, and that's me personally. And Devon, stick to basketball. Well, no, because I watch baseball.
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons for, like, when the Phillies signed him, I think there was a lot of reasons for your concern, because doesn't have a power fastball, doesn't have a wicked breaking ball. But the one thing that I've always kind of gone with him was he's got it. He's got stones. You know what I mean? Like, when you need him to come up in a big spot, he wants the baseball. I think the one that people always think about is the at bat against Shohei Ohtani last year, where, he needed to go after Ohtani and he got him. He struck him out. And I think with him, it's not necessarily about stuff. It's about having it. And he's got it so far. But regardless how you feel about him or how you feel about Alvarado, because, I think people probably feel the way that you feel about Strom, about Alvarado, where there's times where he lights out and there's times where he's throwing 30 pitches to get out of an inning. Regardless how you feel about them, those are your two guys that you trust or at least the most. And then Kerkering's probably 3. And then Hernandez has been underwhelming. Ross has been underwhelming. Ruiz has not been as good as he was a season ago. And you brought up Hoffman, and then Estevez is the other one that they let walk. Mm-hmm. Like, the bullpen got objectively worse from last year to this year.
No, it really has. It really has. Right now, again, just listening to you and Charlie talk about how soon it will be for them to make a deal and to get a move, because that's how dire it is, where you've already seen it 23 games in, where you're seeing that this is an issue. This needs to be addressed. And you hope that it can happen in-house, where everybody gets themselves together and it all starts to work out. It all starts to pan out. Maybe there are a bunch of runs on the board where, they give up 1 or 2 and it doesn't really hurt them, but we're still going to have the conversation, because while they didn't blow the game, they blew the lead and made you bite your fingernails a little bit, because you were so concerned about if it was in fact going to happen. So it's already a problem. I am glad though, Ty, that it's rearing its ugly head early, to get it done now, to recognize that while we already knew it and they were probably going to have to address it at the trade deadline anyway, if the offense can still do what they do and the starting pitching can do what they're supposed to do to hold up themselves, then we know that there's an issue. Maybe it will force his hand. Maybe it is when you talk about Painter coming back, or if the issue with the soreness in the forearm for Cristopher Sanchez is not a problem and Taijuan Walker is cool being in that role, he doesn't have much of a choice, then that's 2 guys right there potentially that you might have a little bit more faith in, especially when you talk about Taijuan Walker, a tough night for somebody, and get some long relief out of him because he's used to throwing that many pitches. Then we'll get there. So kind of the only good thing is it's early. You're not too far behind the Mets right now in the standings. And if there is an issue, it's showing itself now. It needs to be addressed. They know it, and they're going to have to do so.
So you brought up a little bit ago, you brought up Aaron Nola, and it almost feels like Aaron Nola, if you crush Aaron Nola, you get told to settle down. And if you defend Aaron Nola, you get told to like wake up and watch the games, right? There's no in between with this guy. And so where do you sit with Aaron Nola after the 5 starts? Because you brought up like the numbers aren't good and 6 ERA. 5 starts. To me, I thought last night was his best start. The 7th inning we can talk about afterwards, but I thought his best start was last night after the called back home run from Juan Soto. Where are you sitting kind of with Aaron Nola through his first 5 starts?
Just okay. And he's supposed to be one of your top 2 guys. And I understand that Sanchez is that good, showed himself last year as an all-star. We know about Zach Wheeler. Aaron Nola is still, especially being paid what he's being paid, what they brought him back for, is he's still supposed to be one of your top guys. And he just hasn't done enough. So as we talk about disappointing for the team overall, the pitching staff has been pretty good. He has been just okay. He's been a little disappointing, quite frankly, for my liking, for the start of the season. So I would say disappointing right now. While he was a little bit better, I was harping on it this morning about he's a little bit better. But you know what, man? You're setting the tone against the team that's in front of you. The first time you get to see them since the postseason when they knocked you out last year. I don't want to see a solo home. I don't want to see a solo home run to start the first inning, right? I don't want to see something in the second inning that put you down 2-0. And as you said, one that was brought back in the other. So while he was good in the 4th inning, where that's a lot of times his trouble spot, you're first up. Set the tone. Set that tone for the pitching staff of how it goes against this Met team. So I would say overall through the games, high ERA, winless as far as his record goes. Disappointing, just as the season has been for this team so far.
Yeah, I certainly think it's a fair word to use because the velo's been down, the command's not been very good, and he's the type of guy that I said this earlier. I think he's the type of guy that could survive a velo dip because he throws a lot of strikes. Command is usually pretty good. When he misses in the zone, which is unfortunate because that's where it's like a hanging knuckle curve or a 2-seam that runs back over the heart of the plate. But my thought was always like, if he drops to 90 or 91, I still think his command is good enough. He knows how to pitch. He's fine working from behind. He's good in most counts, that it wouldn't impact him the way that it might, let's say, a guy who used to throw 97 and now he throws 93.
Sure.
But the fact that he's not throwing a lot of strikes, especially first pitch strikes, he's falling behind on a lot of hitters. That's where I have the pause of like, okay, this is more concerning than it was after the second start.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, man. And if he starts to lose a little bit off, some of that bite off of some of that movement, the fastball and all, he's gonna have to be really creative with some of the other pitches, the off speed stuff, and to make guys, take a swing, make them guess, hopefully make them miss or ground, just get the outs. Period.
Soft
For him.
contact, that type of stuff.
That's it. So you hope that is the case. Keep a lot of that stuff on the ground. Keep it in the park. Keep it in the air, but keep it in the park, and do his job.
Easier said than done for Nola.
Easier said than done with him. Absolutely, especially if he gets into a high number like we just talked about, and then you do get into that 4th and 5th inning where it's a trouble spot where he can be rolling, and once we see that number 4 pop up on the screen, we're like, okay, this is where it happens. That shouldn't be for a guy like him. Yes, guys have trouble spots. They're normally deeper into the game, not a place like that. Especially after he would have a good first 3 innings. He's at a decent number, maybe sitting somewhere like 45, 50, or maybe even lower. And then he gets to there, and he gets to that spot, and it hurts him. Didn't hurt him last night. Didn't hurt him at all last night. But overall, the pitching performance wasn't good enough, and it hurt them just enough. They lost by 1, gave up home runs. That's on him, too.
All right, so let's PHLY Sixers host and contributor Devon Givens with us. So let's talk a little Sixers because we just got done talking with Charlie about the Flyers draft, and the Sixers find themselves in a similar situation where they're going to be waiting for the ping pong balls to drop and see where they end up picking. Obviously, the difference with the Sixers is there is a chance that the pick may not be theirs if it falls outside of the top 6. So I guess we're playing under the pretense that Tankathon is helping us more times than it's not. But for you, assuming they land in, because I believe that you can correct me if I'm wrong, 6th is the most likely destination for them in terms of percentage.
Yeah.
So assuming they land at 6, I know you guys talked a little bit about it in terms of best and worst pick at that spot. What is your call if they end up at 6? Assuming the ball kind of falls.
Yeah, man, it's been back and forth. When you have this much time, when you had that much time before the season even ended, while we haven't been in this spot in a long time, while we had that time, you start to go over and change different names. You start watching more games, the tournament, you know how important the tournament is to see how they play in high leverage situations, these pressure spots. And some of them perform well, some of them did not. And some of them didn't even make it to the postseason. So that was so just overall just changing a lot of where we were. So right now, man, I mean, it's crazy because I was still looking at the Trey Johnson conversation, the guard from Texas at 6'6". He's a really good scorer, not a great passer, a decent, an okay passer. I don't think his team was all that good, and the coaching let him down a lot to get some of those bad habits out of him. They did not. They're going to rely on that in the pros to help him out with that. Then with him, I like him at that spot. Con Knipple, who we've talked about quite a bit from Duke, where Malawak has fallen back a little bit for the three of us on the show. Con Knipple because of his shooting, and maybe if his size is, he measures out pretty well, like 6'6", 6'7", that would be pretty good for him as a shooter. That will certainly help out and space the floor for all three of the main guys, the big three. And that's probably where we are right now. Maybe mixing a Queen from Maryland, Friars from Oklahoma. He's a smaller guard at 6'4", and you don't really want to do that when you have Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain at that 6'2" height where they are right now, and Quentin Grimes right now at 6'5". That's your biggest guard. So that's the range that we've been in right now. For me, I'll speak for myself. That's where I've looked at with that 6 pick in particular.
So one name you brought up just there, I think it kind of plays to my next question. Does Quentin Grimes impact this draft more than we may have expected when he was acquired?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much. Look, if you get the number 2 overall pick and you get Dylan Harper, that might change how you look at things. Maybe it's McCain or Quentin Grimes, where now you don't have to fork over all that money to Quentin Grimes since he made himself some more money. Maybe you feel comfortable moving Jared McCain in a potential deal, maybe, right, to bolster things. Maybe you do, and if that's the case, we'll see. But that has to be Dylan Harper at the number 2 overall pick. Maybe even VJ Edgecombe if he's selected there. So I would say only really, you know what, Ty? Only if it's Dylan Harper. If it's Edgecombe or any of the other guards that they do draft, I would say it's more likely that they still try to bring Quentin Grimes back.
So one of the phrases I've used a lot on this show and fans have used a lot for the Phillies is run it back. Mm-hmm. And it feels like the Sixers are probably in a similar spot because of money, with their big time guys. I guess the one guy that maybe is still up in the air in terms of does he return or not is Guerschon Yabusele, who I thought was an excellent signing at the time and probably would have been not more impactful because I thought he played pretty well, but it would have been a more impactful signing if the Sixers remained healthy and were the team we expected them to be. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on his return or maybe not returning in this offseason? Because the one thing I've always said is, like, does he go sign with the team that may compete? Or do you think that they've opened themselves up for him to return?
Well, it seems like he wants to come back. He wants to play in the NBA, and I think he wants to play for the 76ers. But he has to go out there and do what's best for him all the time. He spent overseas and missing that NBA run, that NBA contract, the NBA money. He's back at it. He's got a taste for it, and he performed well. Even in the circumstances that he was put in, he still played well. I think Derek talks a lot about the numbers and all and what they can offer, and the numbers still seems to be pretty good where they could bring him back, both he and Quentin Grimes back, where that would be doable for Yabusele and Quentin Grimes. So I would say that right now, running it back, he would be part of that running it back crew.
So I guess then the theory is get healthy and see what happens.
Yeah,
and that's about it.
Yeah, get healthy. It all starts with Joel Embiid, as we know, and that has been the case for the last 7-8 years. That it starts with him, and if he's right, everything else falls into place. And you're talking about round 1, which we're normally doing right now. We're talking about round 1 and not getting ready for an NBA draft lottery. So if he's right, then they still have a chance to be a big player in the Eastern Conference. How good? Of course, we don't know because we haven't seen them at their best with Paul George as part of that trio. We don't know, but they would be a player in the Eastern Conference somewhere in that mix to once again try to compete for an Eastern Conference crown, and then knock on wood and fingers crossed, all that stuff.
An Eastern Conference semifinals appearance.
Can't keep doing that to the people. Second round, man.
You and I worked a lot of Sixers games together over the years, and we had a pretty good pulse, I think, of the team for that run.
Mm-hmm.
And we did post game every night, and it felt to me like even if they were falling short for a while, this team was good. It was going to be good for a while. And then the series against the Celtics broke me. It broke me as a fan.
That was bad, man.
Up 3-2 with a chance to close it out. That series broke me.
That was bad, especially that game 6, because you're up 3-2. The momentum, you had it, you snatched it, you earned it too. They really just took it. No Joel Embiid in game 1. James Harden goes off. Then in game 5, you get a really good game, great games from Embiid and Maxey, 33 and 30. James Harden had a really good floor game. Everybody's good. You get a day off. Game 6 at home, close this thing out. You beat the Celtics to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and kind of, remove that dark cloud from over the center and from over the organization. And they couldn't make shots. And when Jason Tatum couldn't make his shots, he found it in that last 5 minutes, and he hurt them. And then, of course, he took their heart in game 7 when they went back to Boston. So that one, I would agree with you. Not only for yourself, but for a lot of Sixer fans, that one really did them in, saying, all right, enough is enough.
All right, so shout out to Joe Ross as we get this back to baseball for just a moment. 3 shutout innings for Joe Ross out of the pen, 1 hit, 3 strikeouts. Tip of the cap to him as we shout him out. And we'll also shout out the next member joining the PHLY Phillies watch along from the PHLY Flyers crew, a man, I say shout out because I feel like this guy hasn't slept in 2 weeks. And Devon, you and him have done an excellent job filling in for Anthony over the last couple of weeks, along with Jamie Lynch. And from the PHLY Flyers podcast, that's our friend Bill Matz. What's up, Bill?
Yo, what's going on today, gentlemen? Let me see if we can get centered here. There we go. What's up, Devon? What's going on, Tyler?
What's going on, man? I don't know how you did the Anthony Gargano show and then did a show later on and not slept, because I've been up all day and I'm feeling it.
It was a nice midday nap, and depending on everyone else to be prepared for that day's Flyers show, I'll tell you that it was a team effort.
Yeah.
After the morning show today, I texted my wife and I said, "Hey, I know you've been with the baby all day. This is not fair to you, but I'm going home and taking a nap. I got a post-game show to do tonight."
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to put it on your significant other, I guess.
All right, so Bill, welcome to the watch along. 2-1 still as we head into the top of the 6th. Bill, we were just saying tip of the cap to Joe Ross because Cristopher Sanchez exits with forearm strain, forearm soreness, and Ross comes in and gives you 3 really solid innings out of the bullpen. The Phillies are still in this game, due in large part to Joe Ross.
Yeah, you're first of all, Joe Ross, I always want to call him Joe Roa. But Joe Ross,
not a Joe Roa reference.
Had to get it in. Real nice. Plunked Alonso there with 2 outs in the 5th, gave up a fly ball for that 3rd out right to the wall in right, but Casty was there, and hell of an effort. When you get pressed into service like that, you're just crossing your fingers. The dude can keep you in it, and Ross answers, and now it looks like Phils have a runner on with no outs. So look at that. They're right back in it. Despite T-Mac T-Mac and Kruk talking about like mowing the lawn already. I was like, what inning is it? What could the score be that this is a conversation?
It's a 10-0 game.
Yeah. Like, they're not expecting this to go well based on the convo here.
So JT Real Muto hits into a 6-4-3 double play to wipe the threat. Nice play. I mean, they go around the horn. Nice play by Acuna because it wasn't a tremendous throw by Vientos, but a nice play by Acuna to kind of straddle the bag. All right, Devon, before we let you go, we have been kind of propping up every other show so far, so I want to give you an opportunity to do it. You have draft lottery stuff coming up. You have NBA draft stuff coming up. What's around the corner and over the next couple of weeks and months for the PHLY Sixers crew?
NBA draft lottery will be May 12th in our offices, our studio, somewhere around 7:30, because it's always before that first game that night. So we don't know the exact time as of yet, but we know it's going to be somewhere around that time. 2-hour event for all the diehard members to come in and hang out and kick it with us. A little pop a shot, some food, some drinks. Get your name on the board for the pop a shot. We know our rims. Bill can attest to that, where we're in there shooting, all of that. So some heavy lifting for those people coming in there trying to put their name up on the board.
Good luck cracking that leaderboard to any of the
I have watched this show because I was there one day after the Sixers where you guys got done, and I watched you three sit around for probably a good hour, doing a post-show recap, talking about what we're talking about the next day, and also playing Papa Shot.
Yeah, we always wondered, hurting, like, I hope the Flyers team doesn't hear all this shooting of the basketball on the rims, making too much noise while they're doing the show. But so we'll have that, and we're back at 3 p.m. now in the offseason as we get ready for the right for the Sixers to get the number 1 overall pick in the draft and get Cooper Flagg in here to save things, save the franchise.
Well, Devon, I can't thank you enough for taking some time to
Team
join
Tank, us. Bill. Team Tank, man.
That's all we're doing. Post games are
do.
finally over. It's all I care about. Summer vacay.
No doubt, man.
Devon, go enjoy your sleep. You've earned it today. You've been up since 6 o'clock. Great work on the Anthony Gargano show today. And thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening as well.
Phillies and basketball the rest of the night, fellas.
You're the best, Devon. Thanks so much.
See you guys. Thanks.
There he is, Devon Givens from the PHLY Sixers crew. And Bill, you and I now for the 6th inning. And so I've been talking to a bunch of different people today and getting their feel on the Phillies. And then, of course, talking about your shows and what you've got going on. So let's start Phils like we have. 2-1 in this one. And the offense for the second consecutive night has felt pretty anemic against the Mets starting pitching.
Just they're getting runners on pretty consistently, but like JT just hits into that double play, and then of course Bohm comes up, he singles. That would have been nice, It just feels like they can't get that one hit to really get themselves going, and maybe you thought you could carry over some momentum with that Stott home run last night, but just not feeling it. Last inning they have a couple guys on. 2 outs. Casty comes up. He has one of his, is he blindfolded at bats? Like if the pitcher had not thrown the ball, just done I tricked you like you do to your dog, I think he still would have swung. Like it was just one of those rough ones. And that's what we're seeing out of this offense right now. It is a consistently inconsistent, frustrating team right now.
And so they put up a bunch of runs, bunch of crooked numbers on the Giants the last 2 games of that series. Even in the loss, against the Giants, and then scored a ton of runs against the Marlins. And like for a 5-game stretch, they were seeing pitches and running up starter pitch counts. And they've done a much better job, I think, all year of being more selective. I think the last 2 nights they've come up to Citi Field and the plate discipline has not been particularly strong, whether it be 10 strikeouts against McGill or, the Kepler draws a really nice at Walker, has a really nice at bat, and JT immediately wipes them, hitting into a double play. It feels like the last 2 nights have been maybe in a vacuum, but very frustrating in that vacuum.
It's frustrating because, one, it's the Mets, and I feel like they feel it. They want to go up there and see if they can avenge what happened in the DS last year. But the thing is, you win every game 10-0. You still didn't win that series. They just need to get back to doing what they were doing, seeing pitches, being a little more patient. I know that hasn't been their MO, but they were doing a decent job of it this year. And it's just that one big hit when they're in those clutch positions just can't seem to come through right now.
So I think I know your answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think there is merit to a team just kind of owning another team over a year sample size or a couple year sample size?
Absolutely. I think we've seen it in reverse with these couple of franchises in the past where it was just kind of, it was a house of horrors for the Mets coming into Citizens Bank Park. And now it feels like things have reversed, whether it's, Steve Cohen up there kind of changing the vibes, kind of making everyone believe we're not the laughing stock little brother. And they've put together a hell of a talented team. Of course, they've had them in the past and haven't been able to come through. Whatever it is, it just kind of feels like they can't beat the Mets right now.
So if they do end up losing tonight, obviously the game's not over, but if they do end up losing, it'll be 8 out of the last 10, including 3 or 4 in the NLDS last year. And I think that starts to get to a fairly large enough sample size where maybe you think that a team kind of just has your number over 10-game stretch.
Yeah, I think we're getting to that point where it's hard to deny what is happening when one team consistently comes through in those clutch situations. And you see Harper up there, you see Schwarber up there, Casty, whoever it is. They'll even give you a good at bat, but okay, 3-2. Let's see where this goes. And all right, innings over. Let's see if we can hold them down and get them next time. That's just where this is going, and it's incredibly frustrating. But I'm just trying to summon years past where I've thought, oh, they won all these games before the Memorial Day, and what the hell does it matter? Like, it is April 22nd. Yeah, every game counts the same, but if they win in September and hopefully October, we can put this behind us. But it doesn't make tonight any easier. It doesn't make last night any easier.
I think that's the difference. I think when you're viewing baseball, you have to view it in a lens where the tangible stuff you absolutely have a right to be frustrated at. Runners in scoring position, bullpen woes, whatever the case may be, like whatever it might be over that scenario, you have an absolute right to be frustrated over that. And then you also should probably view it in a lens of like, it's a week of 162 games, or it's a 2 series of a months long, stretch where they have 2 days off. So I think there's a line in between like the macro and the micro, where the macro, I'm not overly concerned just yet. The micro there, I think you have things you can certainly point to be concerned about.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of just the city's attention, yes, we're coming off the Super Bowl. The Flyers continue to kind of just be an afterthought. We'll see how that draft lottery goes and everything. But, we have consistently, at least for a couple of weeks, had the Sixers over these last few years to get us through this little middle section. And we can go, yeah, we'll check in at Memorial Day, man, because that's when baseball really starts anyway. And they don't have that now. They don't have that extended spring training buffer to work out the kinks and see what the batting order really should be. And, okay, who belongs where? And maybe we should be platooning center and stuff like that. They have to figure all that out with the city's full attention on the team. And now, it's the Mets. So everyone's paying attention because, as I put, the GIF advertising I was going to be on here on Twitter, F the Mets. There's no team I hate more than the freaking Mets. And the fact that they have our number, it kills me, man. It absolutely kills me. Anyone but them.
I think that you bring up the point of like covering up, and the Eagles covered everything up this year. And that, and the Flyers were a little bit different because the Flyers were still expected to be in a rebuild, but the Sixers season was dreadful. And I think at one point they had lost like 24 of 27 games. And it was just like, it became a chore to watch them. And I give Devon and Derek and Kyle like so much credit for being, active on that beat, because it's got to be difficult. But I think when a team is good, it can cover up other stuff. And so when it comes to that, like you bring up the Sixers specifically, the Eagles covered a lot this winter.
Oh, yeah. Who cared? Oh, the Sixers, this is going pretty poorly. And is Embiid ever going to play again? Who cares? We're winning the Super Bowl. Don't matter. They haven't lost since when, you kind of build up that real immunity to the bad stuff going on. And without any of that in the, Devon's on here and we're both talking about draft lotteries. Like that's where we are with the 2 winter teams that would normally take you into the spring. Nah, don't have it. So now it's kind of all on the Phillies to save our sanity until Bird's camp opens, I guess.
Well, and one of those teams was expected to be in the draft lottery conversation, and the other one wasn't. So I think it changes the conversation a little bit. So let's talk about the draft lottery for just a second, because I talked with Charlie about prospects and guys that he's looking at. And I know you and I have had the conversation about, timeline in terms of what the upswing is for this rebuild. And so when it comes to that kind of timeline, this offseason to me feels like a stepping stone. And then maybe next year is where they take the big swing. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, I think they absolutely want to be better in 2025-26. I think they're going to add a veteran goaltender to try to stem the tide here and just make games that should be close competitive and games that could be coin flips. You could win them and put them in the mix for the playoffs at the very least, the way they were last season, but more real. You know, a couple of years last season was, we're getting really good goaltending. Also, like the penalty kills at like 90%. They had two guys with more shorthanded goals than like the rest of the league. Like little things that just weren't really sustainable, but it was really fun at the time. And it's not really a recipe for winning, but I think they just want to go out and become just a little more reliably consistent, whether it's in goal or get a veteran center who can win you a big face-off and help your power play a little and just be a teeny bit better so that you're not, the fourth worst team in hockey. Maybe you're right on the cusp of the playoffs. Maybe you get one of the wild cards. I think they want that. And then in the summer of 2026, the cap opens up a ton. The salary cap goes from being a problem for the Flyers to we have all sorts of money between it being raised a lot and all sorts of dead money coming off the books, contracts expiring. That is when I think they're going to go out and really try to turn this team into, we're going to try to be top 3 in the division. We are going to try to get to an Eastern Conference final. We're going to try to be a contender.
Oh, are they finally done paying Ilya Bryzgalov? Is that part of it?
Briz ends 2027, I believe.
Okay.
Luckily doesn't count against the cap. One of those good old lockout buyouts that they had. Yeah.
So I know that you can maybe cherry pick numbers a little bit, but this one really stuck out to me when you bring up the goaltending. The goals saved above expected. The Flyers had 3 of the top, or maybe the bottom in this case, bottom 13 goaltenders in that category. Alexei Kolosov was -9. Ivan Fedotov was -13.6. Sam Ersson was actually the worst in the league at -19.9. Like, if you get competent goaltending play throughout, I think you find yourselves in a better spot just on that merit alone.
Yeah, when you look at the the regular numbers, like save percentage, they had 3 guys in like the bottom 7 in the league, and it's really bad. But you can kind of maybe explain that away a little. Like the Flyers just don't give up a ton of shots the way they defend. They're usually near the bottom of the league in shots against under John Tortorella. And all right, if you don't face that many and you let in a few, well, your save percentage is going to look bad because you don't have a ton of shots to kind of boost it, outside shots that get blocked, stuff like that. But when you really dig in and go, it's not as if they give up a million high danger chances. The goalies are just letting in way more pucks than should be expected. As goals save above expected. It's a very easy thing to understand. This was a shot from 40 feet away. You're supposed to stop it.
Sure.
They didn't, and that's what's happening. And they just have to be so much more consistent in goal. I'm not even looking for an all-star here. League average save percentage is like 900, 901. I'd be fine with league average. That would maybe get them into the playoffs. If not this year, definitely last year.
Bill, do you mind hanging with me so we can pay some bills, and we'll come right back to you after that if you don't mind?
I got nowhere to be, Tyler.
All right, let's pause for just a moment because we are way past due. I apologize, Andrew, who's producing today's show. We are way past due for some ad reads. Let's pause for a moment and tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. All right, let's tell you about our friends over at Empire today, because if you're looking for experts when it comes to flooring, don't go anywhere except for Empire today, because they have dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Listen, we've all been to those big box stores and you're thinking about wandering aisles aimlessly and you somehow end up having to take all of the materials home yourself, and then you've got to look for an installer, and then you've got to coordinate it all yourself. Why do that when you have the opportunity to work with the professionals, the flooring experts, where flooring is all they do? And that is why Empire today is the best bet for new floors, because they live and breathe flooring. So they're going to help you pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. You can see how all of the new flooring is going to look with your furniture in your new home. So you're in your home, so you don't have to go anywhere. All the conveniences of them coming to you to show you exactly what it's going to look like in your space. You'll get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered, so there are no surprises. And with Empire today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better when you do them at home. PHLY listeners also will receive a $350 discount when you use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit Empire today/PHLY for full details. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Game Time. I have been talking about the Game Time app for quite some time. It is the only ticket app that I would use because they are the best in the market. It is the ticket app for us here at PHLY. One of the best things about Game Time app is you can take a look at the seat view. You're going to see exactly what you want to, where you're going to sit, what the view looks like, what the angle is. You're going to be able to tell where the sun is in direct proportion. If you're at an outside ball game, for example, you can find the best seats that work for you. We took our baby, 5-month-old, to his first baseball game a couple weeks ago. So we needed to be under the shade and somewhere where he would be cool and comfortable. We found those seats on Game Time, and we were able to actually save a couple of bucks on it as well, because Game Time gives you the best pricing guaranteed, the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And they also offer you all-in pricing. All you have to do is toggle a switch to show exactly what you're going to pay upfront with no surprises at checkout. They give you purchase covered through the most flexible customer service policy in the entirety of the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code PHLY for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast here, presented to us by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. It is the in-game show, and we are in the top of the 7th. Phil still trail 2-1. Thanks to everybody who's been in the chat. Really appreciate you. INS, Pat Ryan, Lou, Ben Ace, K-Red. What's up, everybody?
Hey,
and
Red.
of course, big thanks to everybody from the PHLY staff that has joined us, including Bill Matz, who is here with us for the top of the 7th. We'll check in with Zach Berman in a moment as well. But Bill, so let's get back to that Flyers conversation for just a moment. As the NHL playoffs unfold, and I have been on, I'm honest and transparent about I am a casual hockey knowledge guy. I love the game, but my knowledge is subpar compared to other sports. I have found the playoffs so far to be really entertaining. I think there has been some really, really exciting games so far. The one in particular, the Oilers game the other night, what did it end up being? A 6-5 game, I think it was.
It was 5-4 the Oilers last night. Like, I thought last night was the first night I could really sit down and enjoy the playoffs. And we got 2 awesome late games. Oilers were down, I think, 4-0. McDavid has 4 points, ties the game tying goal with 90 seconds left. You're like, oh, hell yeah, this is some freaking hockey. We're getting some overtime. And then the Kings come back and score with 40 seconds left and win it in regulation. But we got a big comeback from the Stars against the Avs last night, goes to overtime. This first round, a lot of people dislike the format. And I do think there's something to
I'm
1 versus 8. Like, that does make the most sense, right? You have the Stars and the Avs. You have the Battle of Florida going on where 2 legit cup contenders, both series, someone's going to be out in the first round. Right. But also, this is the time where most teams are the most healthy they're going to be for the next 2 months. You get to a conference final, everyone's got a broken foot, everyone's nursing a separated shoulder, and the hockey just isn't as good. So you do kind of have to weigh. You're getting really good matchups early and seeing these teams at their healthiest versus, wouldn't it be cool for the conference final to be like the 4 most entertaining teams? Absolutely. But I do think there's a little more merit to this format, as stupid as it seems.
Well, I think what frustrated a lot of people, myself included, as the casual hockey fan, was how many years in a row were we going to get Boston, Toronto in the first round?
Exactly.
It was 4 straight years, I think it was, in the first round.
And this is the 4th straight Kings Edmonton first round.
Right.
And that's frustrating, but now you're seeing a little bit of a power shift. Like, the Kings have gotten better. The Edmonton got a little older, got a little slower, played a ton of hockey the last year with going to Game 7 of the Cup final. So they're just maybe not the same team. And now you're seeing the dynamic switch, and you do get cool rivalries out of it.
Sure.
But yeah, 3rd year in a row for Kings Oilers. You're like, all right, we kind of know how this is going, right? Last year, it is kind of they're trying to manufacture rivalries, and I understand that, but it can get a little tedious when it's the same series every single year a couple of times.
All right, so let's open up to a third guest now, our third member of the show from the PHLY Eagles podcast. Has done an unbelievable job covering the Eagles everywhere he's gone. Honored to be a coworker and a friend now of this guy. Let's have from the PHLY Eagles podcast, Zach Berman joins the show. What's up, Zach?
Hey, you got me? What's up, guys? Good to see you.
Yo, what up, Zach? R.L. Stein over here pumping out the books like no one you've ever seen.
You know what? I've never been compared to R.L. Stein, but I will take it. If my books give people goosebumps, then yeah, so be it. That'd be a good outcome.
So Zach, we'll definitely talk a little bit about the book in a second. We'll talk about all the draft coverage you got coming up because this week is busy for you. So thank you so much for carving out a couple minutes to talk a little baseball. Bill and I were just talking about the inconsistencies of the offense over the last two nights for the Phillies. And it's kind of reared its ugly head again this evening. Bryce Harper just struck out to end the top of the seventh. Phillies have really struggled offensively the last two nights. What's been your takeaway from this team so far through the first 23 games, I guess as a whole, and then maybe over the first two nights of this series?
Yeah, I think you hit it as far as the inconsistencies. And, reading all the coverage and listening to the coverage coming out of spring training, what you kept hearing was more of an emphasis of bat on balls, right? And you're not seeing that come to fruition enough. And that's, I have the MLB package. I'm always scrolling through, like, you just got to get the bat on the ball, get the ball in play. The Dodgers do that better than any team, really. And actually this year, not so much, but it's like make the other defense make plays. And you're not seeing that enough. And the thing is too, the Phillies have guys who they should be dangerous on the base paths. When you look at Trey Turner, when you look at Bryson Stott, right? Like they should be able to threaten teams, but they got to get on base for that to happen.
So Bryson Stott's one guy that I have been very, very high on over his career. Rough season last year. I think the injury probably played a little bit of a part. Ask both you guys, what are your thoughts about Bryson Stott at the top of the lineup over the last week and a half or so?
I think it gives the Phils just another look and gives him the opportunity to, one, hit in front of the team's best hitters, see some more fastballs, and do the thing he does best. The home run last night notwithstanding, it's not as if he drives the ball a ton. He's not hitting it into the seats. He's not powering it into the gaps all that much, but he gives you a good at bat. He doesn't swing and miss a ton. It gives him that opportunity to see the pitches and let everyone else kind of do what they're supposed to do, be the table setter rather than someone counted on to either drive in runs or just be a body at the bottom of the order. Right now, it looks like their best option, the way Trey Turner's been going. Me personally, I want Bryce Harper leading off, but that's never going to happen. I like Schwarber up there with the power threat, and he continues to give you good at-bats. But right now, if this is the direction they're going in, that's not the problem with this order. Stott's been hitting a little bit. It's kind of everyone behind him right now.
Yeah, I think Bill put it well there. Case in point, I was at that game on Sunday, and bottom of the first. So first at bat for Phillies, Stott lays down that bunt when the defense is playing off. He gets the first cleanly, nice bunt, steals second. Trey Turner hits him over to third. Trey Turner steals second. Then, Bryce Harper gets the double, drives them both home. That's like there's no better way to draw it up than that other than home runs. That said, I've always thought Trey Turner should be the leadoff hitter. When Trey was at his best, he was at the top of the order. It's obviously not the path that the Phillies have gone, but for the reasons that Bill outlined, I can't object to Bryson Stott being up top.
Bill, I don't want to take too much of your time. You gave us quite a bit, so I really appreciate you joining us. Really quickly before we let you go, I asked Charlie this. I want you to do it as well. What's coming up on the horizon for the PHLY Flyers show? What do you guys have coming up over this summer?
All sorts of fun content. If anyone remembers what we did last summer, our Tuesday reviews days with hockey movies and shows coming back, all that fun stuff. Hopefully we're just killing less time because Danny Briere is a little bit busier of a summer this year than he did last year. But the thing imminent is our draft lottery party, Monday, May 5th, right there at the PHLY studios. Die Hard only event. Get your tickets at allphly.com. We're going to be doing a live show, reacting to the lottery drawing. Hopefully the Flyers, stay at 4 or maybe even move up to 1 or 2, that would be outstanding. But whatever it is, we're going to be having a great time. So come and check us out and see if you can get on that leaderboard with Papa Shot. See if we can take down those Sixers guys.
No chance.
None whatsoever.
Bill, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking some time tonight to hang out with us, talk some Phils.
Anytime. Take it easy, gentlemen.
All right, ZB, Zach Berman is with us still, or he was. Oh, there he is. Okay. Zach, so you, unlike our last two guests who have been covering teams that are in the draft lottery, cover a team that just won the Super Bowl.
Sure.
In case anybody didn't know, the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. So your guys' draft process, I think, is probably a little bit different than what they're thinking about with draft lotteries and who, do they move up or move down? You guys have an extensive draft coverage between yourself, Bo, Fran. Everybody's been unbelievable, and I'm really excited for Thursday and this weekend. What's your draft coverage look like? What does your week look like? Because I'm assuming you're probably not sleeping too much.
Yeah, so it's really been a few months, really, going back to the combine. And I got to say, there was a shorter period of time, obviously, than there is in other years, right? Because the offseason is shorter when the Eagles make the Super Bowl. But, we've been watching these prospects, and Fran mostly. I'll give Fran all the credit. He's our draft guy. But, I have to be familiar with about 200 players for when they come up on air. So we've been doing shows on this, every position, for a few weeks. We've had coverage on allphly.com. Really, Fran's been the leader for everything. And then draft weekend, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're on the entire time throughout the draft. So I would say it's counter-programming, but I would like to think that the draft is counter-programming to us because, we'll be Eagles specific. We'll be having fun there. So it'll be like 5 hours on Thursday night, 6 hours on Friday night, 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever it is on Saturday. Now, after the Eagles picks, I will rush over to NovaCare. So the Eagles facility. I'll talk to Howie, talk to Nick. We'll have all the coverage on allphly.com too. So written coverage in addition to our shows. But it's going to be fun. Last year was the first year that, we did all 3 days live. Obviously it was the first year of PHLY, and it was a blast. I think, the viewers enjoyed it, and we'll take it to a different level this year because we have Fran with us.
I played a very small part being there Saturday afternoon with you guys, and I think the professional nature that you guys allude is never goes without saying. But I think you guys, you said that you used the phrase "take it to another level." I think that weekend you guys really showed up and showed out that draft, because we don't have commercial breaks like TV does. We do them live, right? And we do. Everything is kind of internal with all of us. And so and I want to shout out again, Julia and Brenna and Chris, who do amazing work behind the scenes. But your guys' draft coverage last year was a blast. And I'm a big college football guy. I love the draft. And to watch you guys do it with the knowledge that you have, but be able to do it with an Eagles lens was the perfect blend. I think it's a great 3-day process.
Well, it's nice of you to say. You were a big part of that last year. And, honestly, Bo deserves a lot of the credit because Bo keeps the conversation rolling. Bo, if not for Bo, a 6-hour show with me would be pretty boring, right? But I would say that, honestly, most of the credit last year in particular went to Howie Roseman, because they just kept trading, right? And so when there's that big lull, it might be you kind of have to force conversation. Howie would be on the clock, then trade back, then be on the clock and trade back during day 3. So there was always kind of that suspense. Are they going to take it? And then the cool thing with day 3 is that, they're not announcing all the picks on TV. So, we're often informing the audience who the Eagles are picking, especially, if we're getting heads up early on some of the picks. So it's just really cool. The way I like to, my friend Shio Kapadia from The Ringer, when I started doing a podcast with him 6 years ago now, his big advice was like, people just have to enjoy hanging out with you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really how I would explain our draft coverage. Is it's like you're in the studio hanging out with us. Bo's making fun of me, making me feel uncomfortable for about 18 hours. I'm trying to kind of come up with as much random, nuanced tidbits that I can. Fran knows every single player. I mean, it's like being on the set with Mike Mayock. I think this year we could do a stump the truck type thing, right? Where we see if there's a player that he hasn't done work on. If I look to the right here, it's because that's where my TV is, and I see.
I'm doing the same thing. Don't
Okay,
worry.
yeah. I don't want you to think I'm being
No.
rude.
Believe me, this is how these in games go. It's very, very laid back. We're watching the game in real time. But I want to. You brought up the day 3, and the Eagles are in kind of an interesting position with as many 5th round picks as they have. So I talked to Jamie a little bit about this, like move up, move back in the first round always draws the attention. But the 5th round picks to me are the ones that I think the Eagles would more likely use to maneuver around on later in day 2 or in the beginning of day 3. Do you feel like there's kind of a sense of that heading into this draft?
Absolutely, right. I mean, those 5th round picks are chips, and and it's the type of thing too where I think Howie would be more inclined to use those as chips on whether it's day 1 or early day 2, because, and you saw this last year, he always feels like he can trade back, right? So the price for trading back, as you get, it's easy. I say easy, relatively speaking, but it's easy to pick up 5th round picks later in the draft, right? Because oftentimes, let's say you're drafting in the late 4th, the pool of candidates that you're looking at, there's probably a few guys in that bucket. So if there's a team interested in moving up, you're willing to move back and add, move back to the 5th, add a 6th in there, whatever it may be. Or Howie also has a reservoir of picks next year that he can trade from. He can always trade in to next year. There's veterans that the Eagles could look to acquire. There's veterans that the Eagles could trade from this year's team. So it's really like you kind of look at all your assets. So players, current picks, future picks, and you're as creative as you can based on those assets.
All right, so quick check-in on the game. 3-1 now, Mets lead. Pete Alonso does damage once again. Orion Kerkering ends up giving up the run. And Zach, we talked about it before you came on. Tip of the cap tonight to Joe Ross specifically for keeping the Phillies in this game. 3 really good innings out of the pen. Romano was good out of the bullpen tonight. Tanner Banks gave you 2/3 of an inning. He'll get charged with that run that Kerkering surrendered. But the bullpen, especially with Cristopher Sanchez exiting after 2 innings with the arm soreness, the bullpen's been really good today so far. I think kept the Mets to just the 1 earned run through now what's been almost five innings pitched.
Yeah, and those long men, so to speak, are important, right? I was watching the Giants game last night, and I saw Hayden Burnsong. I saw Hayden Burnsong come on and kind of do what we saw Joe Ross do tonight, right? And there are going to be times when the pitcher doesn't give you 7 innings, and the problem that the Phillies have run into has been more the 8th and the 9th. But if you can get, what was it, 3 quality innings from Joe Ross, you'll take that any day.
Yeah, and I think that we talked a lot about the bullpen tonight and over the week. I think the issue the Phillies have run into now is because over the last week, you've had 2 starters exit the game early due to injury, right? Taijuan Walker only goes 4 on Saturday, really taxes your bullpen. And then Romano has the blow-up inning, which forces you to go to Alvarado when you really don't want to. And then tonight, they've been asked to throw a lot of pitches because Sanchez is only able to give you 2. I think that in terms of taxing the bullpen, I know that they've not been good, but they have been asked to throw a lot of pitches over the last week or so, even with good starts from Wheeler, good starts from Sanchez the last time through, good start from Luzardo. And then even last night, Nola was good enough, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And look, that's the reality of the baseball season, right? I mean, like I think the Brewers are one of the more underrated organizations in baseball. And you look at their rotation, they've just been pilfered by injuries this year. But they're over 500 right now. I think they've won maybe 4 of their last 6 or something, because they find ways, and you're going to need to start multiple guys over the course of the season, we'll see what the injury is here to Sanchez. But the reality is that there are going to be times when Nola's not what you want him to be, and he's going through it right now. Whether it's Walker, Sanchez, your starter doesn't last 7 innings like Luzardo did the other night. Like the consistent innings that you're getting from Wheeler, and that's where you need the pitching depth organizationally, and then you need those long men in the bullpen to get you to the back end.
So we were talking about this before you came on as well. Ranger Suarez with a really good outing in Lehigh Valley today, 5 innings pitched. I think he only threw about 58 or 59 pitches to get through those 5 innings, 5 shutout innings. Have to assume he's probably close to returning at this point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I was actually tracking that tonight as well. And I heard talk that maybe they bring him back in the pen. You and I were talking about it in the studio. I agree. Boris won't want that. Scott Boris won't. I believe he's a Boris client. Yeah, I mean that's gonna be huge for the rotation. I had figured, and I'll defer to you on this, Tyler. I had figured at some point this year they would go to a 6-man rotation, knowing Painter's going to be there probably the back end of the season. So you're going to kind of by the time Painter's there, you're going to want to be a 6-man rotation. But I wonder if it's something that they consider going to sooner.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a thought. My thought with Painter has always been like, I think this rotation's good enough to allow him to grow and return on his own. Because Tommy John's no joke, obviously, and he's a young guy who's missed pretty much 2 seasons now because of it. This rotation is good enough to allow that to happen. And I still think that might be the case. But whenever he does come up, and I know like July-ish has been the phrase they use a lot. Whenever he does come up, I have to imagine they're going to go to a 6 because everything that they've made mention of is that he's a starter, he's a starter, he's a starter. I personally would love to see him in that. I know people always use the David Price example in 07 and 08 or 08, I guess, with the Rays. But I think that it's a good example to use. I would love to see him in that role to get his feet wet a little bit as a major league pitcher and then like really unleash him in 2026.
Really? Okay.
But I don't think Rob Thompson agrees with me.
Yeah. Look, I mean, anecdotally, I can tell you, I was at the Washington Post in 2008, 2009, 2010, and if you say, Zach, what are like some of your best sports memories, like outside of championship games, like just like places you'll always remember being there. I'll always remember covering Steven Strasburg's first game. It was against the Pirates. I think he had 14 Ks, if memory serves. But I will all, just like the electricity in Nationals Park that night, like seeing a phenom in his debut, and like that's what I'm eager to see in Philly this year. And I remember growing up, I was probably in high school at the time, maybe when Cole Hamels had his debut. I think it was in Cincinnati, and so it was on the road. But I remember when Brett Myers had his debut. Like there's that excitement when your top pitching prospect gets that chance to break in. Last year when Skeens had his first start, like it was a big deal. So I would love, like, if there's a Sunday home game and you have, or a Tuesday night game, whatever it is, and you have Painter on the mound, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that the Strasburg one that you bring up was the one that sticks, I think, for a lot of people, because I didn't really have any care to see Nationals Pirates, 48 hours prior. But the moment they announced that he's taking the mound and he's going to pitch, that was must-watch TV at that point. It became appointment television. You sat down and watched, because I remember ESPN picked it up, and it was an important game. And I think there's juice and there's life to your big-time prospect making his debut, whether it is a hitter or a pitcher. But I think the pitcher specifically really has some extra, like, flair to it because they're in control of the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely, and look, I'm a sicko. I was watching Chase Dollander's first start last week, and then
I love that you love baseball as much as you do, because obviously you're an incredible football writer and football podcaster, and your life is football. But I love that you love baseball the way that you do, and the way that you study prospects and you're into that. Like it really makes me so happy that you're such a big baseball nerd.
So I got to be honest with you. Of all the sports, baseball is the best background music, so to speak, right? Like it's
Sure.
so I'm always writing when my wife goes to sleep, and so I'm sitting here, doing my draft work until probably midnight, and in the court, I have the Phillies Mets game on right here, top of the eighth, but I always have, I have the MLB package, and I'm cycling through games. So like if you spot me in the office and you say, what game did you watch last night? I promise you, I can rattle off like 15 at bats that I turned around and watched.
Sure. That is, I always tell people I watch the NFL because I think the NFL is different, where it's one game at a time. You watch one, you watch four, you watch Sunday night, you watch, but you're kind of locked in. And the NFL, I think, is totally different than every other sport, where I think baseball, I would bet you there's more Phillies fans than there are baseball fans in the city of Philadelphia.
Right.
Whereas if you asked, are you an NFL fan? You go, yeah, I love the NFL. I watch fantasy football implications and things like that. So when you talk to somebody who is like, yeah, man, I'll watch Rockies, Padres at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. That I love that mindset, because that is somebody who not only loves the Phillies, but loves the game.
Yeah. And I think too, like, a lot of us are like this. Like I love the team building aspect of sports. I love the decision-making aspect of sports. Right. And you learn so much. Like I could, if Howie Roseman pulled me aside, well, he's not going to pull me aside tomorrow because he's preparing for the draft. If he pulled me aside for 2 weeks and he said, Zach, tell me 5 things that you learned from the way Andrew Friedman builds the Dodgers, I can have that conversation, right? And so, like, I think it's I think there's a lot you can learn from the different sports.
I think the roster construction of baseball is so intriguing because of the salary or lack of salary cap. And that was something that Charlie and I really talked about a lot about was, the potential conversation of that being a thing, because the CBA is up at the end of next season. And I know the owners that don't like to spend any money have called for a salary cap, and the owners that like to spend money have said fine, or maybe not fine, but if there is a cap, there needs to be a floor. And that's where the back and forth has really kind of taken off. The way that baseball teams are constructed, especially when you have almost a Premier League type of gap between the top payrolls and the bottom payrolls, I think is such an interesting dynamic, where some teams just say, hey, we're going to spend $300 million. And some teams, like I think I use the Rays as the example because they have been the most consistently good, low-paying team, where it's like, we're going to find and flip these guys and find and flip these guys. And now, like with the Rays, for example, I think about who's next, right? Who are they moving next? And it's probably going to be Shane Baz at some point. But they've done that for years now, where they've been able to draft and cultivate and develop and then move on. But then some of these other teams, where like the Marlins and things like that, they've really struggled for any kind of consistency.
Yeah, but like the Rays, you're absolutely right, and it's also it's knowing when to move on. It's knowing who to move. Like you can do a whole flow chart from, let's say, like the Chris Archer trade. Chris Archer goes to the Pirates for what, Glasnow and Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
Meadows goes to the Tigers for what, Paredes. Paredes goes to the Cubs for Morel. And then you have, so then Glasnow, then he goes to the Dodgers. They get a Ryan. Is it Pepoy?
Yeah.
I'm so bad with pronunciations. I got to work on that. But like, they get the Luca from that deal. So yeah, it's knowing who to move and when to move. And like, I always tell people too, like the reason the Dodgers are great isn't because they have all the money to spend. They do have all the money to spend, but they win on the margins as well. Right. And like, they're, if you look at like the Mookie Betts trade, for instance, right? Who do they trade? They trade Jeter Downs. And they got Jeter Downs in what, the Cespedes deal, with the Reds. So they're constantly finding different prospects. Like if you look at their farm system now, what Zaire Hope is one of their top prospects. They get Hope in the deal for Michael Busch. Michael Bush is blocked there. And so, their farm system's consistently good. And that's the thing with, Dombrowski to kind of spin into the Phillies. Like his MO has always been trading prospects.
Mhm.
And but the thing that I'm always interested in is not just trading prospects for frontline players, but in your, hockey trade, so to speak, like your prospect for prospect deal or your, player for player deal. How do you do those? So like I think the most important deal of the Dombrowski era has probably been Hop for Marsh. And
Sure.
I'll defer to you in terms of how that deal materialized. But Marsh has given them quality outfield, was a part of a World Series team. But Hop was probably their most tradable asset at one point. Like a AAA catcher ready for the big leagues, and they take him and they turn that into Marsh, and you wonder, was there a different route they could have gone?
Yeah, and I think with the O'Hoppe trade specifically, now Jamie and I were talking about the lack of catcher productivity, especially at the top of the catcher market. There's not a lot of really good offensive productive catchers across baseball right now. And O'Hoppe's becoming one of those where he has been really good for the Angels this year. And now you're kind of left with a conversation of, do you re-sign JT Realmuto because you kind of have to, as opposed to you want to? Because I am a huge Eduardo Tait fan. I have been for 2 years now. I think his bat to ball skill is really, really good. I'm not so sure he's an everyday catcher just yet. He may be more of a DH, first base, catch a little bit type of guy. But even if he is an everyday catcher, he's 19 years old. He's still a ways away. You don't have a plan past this year that really doesn't include re-signing JT.
Yeah, you're right. Now, if you let a walk hang, is there a place you can pivot? Right. There are teams who their catchers are not middle of the order players, right? But a bottom of the order, and you have a platoon there. So there's different routes you can go. JT like defensively is so good.
Still
and
so
that's
good.
that's what jumps out. And Marchand's just not giving them the same thing defensively. But it goes back to the conversation about not having a cap. Now there's a tax that they have to be mindful of.
Right.
But when you don't have, Howie has to work within the restrictions of the salary cap. If you're not working within the restrictions of those cap of that cap, then you can be a little more aggressive in keeping some of these veterans.
Zach, I don't want to keep too much of your time. I know you got a million draft things to do. I can't thank you enough for taking some time to join us. But before we depart, I know we talked a little bit about it, but draft coverage wall to wall this week. You guys have been killing it with your player mocks and your player profiles and things like that. Any player that stands out to you that maybe has flown under the radar a little bit, or maybe hasn't been talked about as much? Because I know, like, Walter Nolan's a big name that's come up a lot, and Michael Williams. Michael Williams.
Yeah,
Michael
Williams from Georgia
has been a guy that's been talked about a lot. Malachi Starks. Anybody for you? Maybe not in the first round, but anybody for you that you really like, that you would think would fit well with this Eagles team?
Yeah, so it's a good question because, and the reason I say it's a good question is because one thing I kind of balance this time of year, especially I say it's a new role. We're 20 months in now to the PHLY, so it's not really a new role anymore. But balancing between being like the evaluator and the forecaster, and what I mean by that is, like, there's guys that I like who I'm not sure the Eagles are keen on. So it's like I try to gear my coverage more toward, like, this is who I think the Eagles are going to go for. But someone who's kind of in the middle of that Venn diagram, who probably isn't getting enough attention as a potential Eagles first round pick. But outside of Walter Nolan, who I keep hearing Walter Nolan won't be there at 32. We'll see. But the guy I think second most likely to be the Eagles pick is Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College, 16 and a half sacks last year, South Jersey guy from Woodstown, right? And he is, to me, like, you can see why there's a lot of tools there to work with. He plays really hard, not a big guy, but has like excellent length. I would watch out for him, although I'm hearing he can go as high as like Tampa Bay at 17,
Sure.
or 18 or 19. So, so he's someone who I think that that fans should definitely have their eye on. I'm expecting if the Eagles do take a first-round pick, if they don't trade out of the first round, I think it's the line of scrimmage. So either D-line, edge rusher, offensive line. Malachi Starks, the safety, would be a terrific pick in terms of value, in terms of need. But all things being equal, I don't think Howie goes safety. I don't think Howie goes tight end. I think Howie goes to line of scrimmage because that's how Howie builds a team. So I would definitely pay attention to that. If you're looking for some potential targets like day 3, I watch out for the running back Jaden Blue from Texas. I will watch out for the offensive lineman Jalen Travis from Iowa State. These are 2 guys they brought in for top 30 visits. And if you're bringing in day 3 guys for top 30 visits, it shows that there's something there that you're not wasting that visit. You're not wasting the money. You're not wasting the time to bring that guy in unless there's legit interest. There's no subterfuge when you bring in a day 3 guy. You're bringing in a day 3 guy for a specific reason.
Zach, I can't thank you enough. I am so excited to and looking forward to your guys' draft coverage. You, Bo Wolf, Fran Duffy, Jamie Lynch, everybody that's been a part of the PHLY Eagles show heading into this draft has done an unbelievable work, and I am so excited to watch you guys for 5 uninterrupted hours effectively over the next couple of days. So thank you so much for your time. I know you got a million things going on, so I really appreciate you carving out some time to join us today, and can't wait for the Eagles coverage over the next couple of days.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I love coming on, and I just want to show the audience here. This came in the mail today. All right. We have all these new shirts on allphly.com.
Nice.
So, I'm still, if Vince is in the chat, he's gonna be rolling his eyes at me because I'm a journalist, right? So I'm not wearing Phillies gear or Eagles gear or Sixers gear or Flyers gear, but I will wear PHLY gear. And my son thought this was a Phillies shirt, and I said, it's a PHLY shirt. So this is kosher to wear, so to speak, for me. We got awesome stuff on allphly.com. I'm pumped for our Phillies coverage. Obviously, you doing the PHLY Phillies show, but on allphly.com, we have Jim Salisbury. He's the best Phillies guy. You got, we have Bob Cooney now writing for us. So we got great coverage. Make sure everyone checks that out.
Zach, you're the best. Can't thank you enough for carving out some time to talk with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There he is, Zach Berman from the PHLY Eagles podcast. All right, listen, we haven't talked about the in-game stuff in a while because this game has been dreadful for the Phils. 5-1 now. This thing's kind of ballooned. It is the bottom of the 8th, and it might as well be 50-1 because I don't feel comfortable with the and listen, they were down 5-1 heading into the 5-0 heading into the 9th yesterday, and they ended up making this 5-4. I don't think you're going to see a similar outcome tonight. This one feels like they've kind of rolled over and died a little bit. And I think the bullpen for the most part was good. Orion Kirkering was the only one that I don't think pitched very well. Ends up giving up 2 earned runs. One gets charged to Tanner Banks. But I think Orion Kirkering's the only one that didn't pitch particularly well. Like Joe Ross, we talked about a lot, was excellent. 3 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, just the 1 hit. Jordan Romano was good. Walked 1, but struck out 1. Only needed 16 pitches to get his 3 outs. Tanner Banks ends up giving up the hit, which turns into an earned run for him. But I thought he was able to come in and get 2 outs. And really it was just a rough night for Orion Kirkering. And the Phillies offense has been listless. Again, it's the second night in a row they've been listless for the first 8 innings. And Frank C., did they look to move Trey at the deadline? I don't think so. I think for a multitude of reasons. I don't think anybody is going to want to take on that contract. I don't think the Phillies are going to get what they're hoping for in return for Trey Turner because of that contract. And I also think that they still believe he's an integral piece to this team. Now, whether that means you believe that or not, that's your prerogative. But I think the Phillies are not – I don't think there's much leeway in that conversation. All right, so bottom of the 8th, Phil's down 5-1. I want to give a shout out to Andrew Frasier, who has produced today's show. He's producing the pregame, or produced the pregame show as well. Andrew is Anthony Gargano's producer as well, was with the Anthony Gargano show. Obviously, Devon Givens was on it this morning, along with VG as always. But Andrew's had a very long day as a PHLY member and producer. And I wanted to give Andrew a shout out, who has been with us from the beginning. You are the best, Andrew. I can't thank you enough.
Happy to be here, man. Happy to hang out.
We unfortunately still have a post-game show to do.
That we do, yeah.
This one's been because obviously you've been with us this whole time. You've been watching this game.
I have, yeah.
This one feels like it's been pretty lifeless.
Yeah, I feel like once Sanchez kind of left the game, it felt that way, you know. The forearm, you know, we don't know what that is or what it's going to look like, but could be something serious, could be something nothing, you know, we have no idea. But after he left the game, it really just kind of went downhill. Yeah, so we kind of knew it was going to be kind of a loss here.
Yeah, so it looks like it's trending towards the Phillies losing this series. It will be their third series loss in the last 5, dating back to the Braves series. They obviously sweep with the Giants. They win over the weekend against the Marlins. They'll be 13-11, which, I mean, listen, is not like the end of the world. It's not the worst place to be. They still will be in second place in the division, but the Mets continue to pull away a little bit. After 24 games last year, the Phillies were 15-9. They lost game 24 to the Reds after winning 7 consecutive games to go from 9-8 to, 6 consecutive games to go from 9-8 to 15-8. So they were 15-9 at this point last year after 24 games. So obviously a step back. But I don't think not the worst place to be in the world, but there's clearly room for concern.
Yeah, and you know, obviously the bright side of this whole thing is baseball's a long game, and there's a lot of season left, and they can definitely find ways to turn things around. Guys can start hitting better. Pitchers can find a groove and really start, you know, working, you know, and who knows? Who knows what happens in a month, you know? They always say, you know, baseball really doesn't start until like the All-Star break, you know, so we have a lot of time until then. And, you know, it's disappointing to see the start that we have this season, especially when they started off pretty warm, you know, like the first 3 series, they took those and they just have been kind of falling apart. It feels like every game. And I don't know if it's just because there's something that's going on with them mentally. Maybe there's something missing. I know we talk about it sometimes on Anthony's show, and VG brings it up. But like, is there a Stubs effect? You know, was there something in that locker room that was there that was bringing, you know, joy or a spark to the team that was making it fun to play the game? And maybe they just don't have it.
So I think I think there is a Citizens Bank Park effect. I do believe that to be real. Phillies, if they lose tonight, they'll be 4-7 on the road. They will have scored 39 runs, assuming they end up scoring 1 tonight. They'll have scored 39 runs in those 11 games. They'll have given up 48. So they're giving up about 4.5 runs per game on the road. They're scoring under 4. And then at home, they've played 13 games. They're 9-4. They've scored 69 runs. So in 13 games, they've scored 69 runs. You're talking about what is that? Almost 5. Actually over 5 runs per game. They are clearly a much better team at Citizens Bank Park, but you play 81 games on the road, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get you know, even if you're going to have to go like, you know, 55-25, 55-26 if you want to contest with a bad road record. Because my thought process has always been, if you play 500 ball on the road, if you go 41-40 on the road or 40-41 on the road, you can go 50-31 at home, and that's 90 wins, and that should be enough to get you into the postseason. Definitely. You start dipping into, you know, multiple games under 500 early in the season on the road. Those things start to mount up a little bit, and you know you're going to have to find a way to battle back.
Yeah, and you know what? Baseball to me is a very zen sport. You have to be in the right mindset. It's all about groove. It's all about feeling the ball, feeling your swing, feeling your pitch. And, you know, if there's anything that's going on behind the ear, in between the ears, like for example, you know, the Phillies having so much pressure after not being able to get to the World Series or getting to the World Series and losing and then trying to crawl their way back. You know, that puts a lot of pressure on teams and a lot of pressure on guys in those locker rooms, in that clubhouse. And, you know, maybe they just need to find a way to find that zen, you know, and find that way, that peace, that serenity that they need to, like, get back into these grooves, because you can see it with these guys. You can see it with Bohm. You can see it with Marsh. You can see it with a lot of the guys at the plate. They don't look comfortable. And
Well, I think pressure is inherent when you have a $280 million payroll, right? Like, and you're expected to compete. So I don't think it's out of nowhere. Like the year that they went to the World Series, there was very little bit of pressure because they were a team that was struggling, fired their manager, went on a ride, had a lot of fun. And you could see they were having fun playing baseball because they were playing carefree ball.
Yeah.
The next year there was much more pressure because of the fact that they had just come off a World Series title, and you're hoping for, or a World Series run, and you're hoping for a repeat. Sure. And the following year, I think it's even more because you continue to add to your payroll. This year, I think the pressure is where the levee could break if things don't go well, because I think that this is the year for a lot of people where they go, this is where, like, I think the rubber meets the road a little bit for a lot of fans. I have tried to, keep people in mind that they're going to have money next year, but that doesn't help people this year, right? If they're struggling this year, it's not like it's the Flyers where they're in a rebuild. If they're struggling this year, people are going to be pissed.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of the final straw season for them, for this team, right? We haven't seen much change in the last 2 seasons, and that's been their philosophy, is just to, always keep bringing it back. And, I mean, we knew as the fans that they need a little extra more with this team. Losing those 2 pieces in the bullpen with Hoffman,
significant.
Estevez, that was, I mean, we're seeing the drop off here. I mean, you could have, with the money that you paid those guys and the money that you paid, Romano, and it really wasn't that much more. Jeff Hoffman really didn't get that much more. And
Hoffman's contract is backloaded. He's only making like $8 million this year. Now it's like 12 and change next year, but it's a backloaded contract.
Yeah, and we knew the writing on the wall was we needed outfield, we needed batters, we needed hitters, we need someone that's going to make a spark in this lineup. And they could have used the money wisely and found that bat. I know there probably weren't that many options out there this offseason, but, you could have made something a little bit better. Kepler's great. I mean, he started off strong. He's kind of been in kind of a little bit of a lull, but, maybe he'll be able to get, into a groove, and hopefully he stays out of any injuries. But, I mean, we'll see. Like I said earlier, baseball's a long sport, and, they could just be finding themselves now, and then who knows, in a month they could be on a roll, and we're thinking completely different than we are now. I mean, we saw the Eagles last season, had a rough start, went 2-2. We were all like, oh no, right, danger's on the wall here, and they ended up winning a Super Bowl. So I mean, anything is possible. It is a sport, so anything is possible. Things can change, and baseball is the best sport for that, for things to change. But right now, it's been a tough watch.
All right, so we do have one more ad block to fill, and we're almost out of time here in the PHLY Phillies watch along before we turn it over to the PHLY post-game show, which we'll set up momentarily as well. But before we do that, let's get out of here. Before we get out of here, let's tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. And Johnny Marks has been talking about the GLAT hair team for a long time because they've done incredible work with him, and they've done incredible work with a multitude of different people. And they've been restoring and defending hairlines for over 30 years. So it's no wonder that they have the reputation that they do. Their proven results, their track record speaks for itself. It's the reason why the GLAT hair name has stood the test of time. But GLAT hair is not just about restoration. They're about innovation as well. They have breakthrough specialized hair techniques that really do dramatically change lives and change hairlines as well. But the best thing about GLAT is they're not going to treat you like a number. They're not treating you like a customer who's in and out of the door. They treat you like you. They treat you like one of one, and they give you that one-on-one care. They give you a 100% personalized hair restoration plan of action that is designed for you and your specific hair loss. So that may not mean hair restoration surgery right away. It may mean that you just want to take some precautionary measures, TED treatments, things like that. They offer you follow-up care, and they offer cutting-edge hair loss prevention treatments and medications if you do need to follow that avenue. GLAT hair can help you keep the hair you already have or help bring back what you've already lost. So if you'd like more information and are ready to defend your hairline today, visit GLATHairMM.com or you can call or text 610-980-4000 to get started. And of course, let's talk to you about TrueMark Financial Credit Union, because it's never a bad time to start telling your kids about financial literacy. And April is Financial Literacy Month, and TrueMark offers something that is going to help you and your children understand exactly what it means to handle money and be smart with their finances. It is the TrueMark Greenlight app. It's not just any app. It is a game changer for you and your kids, so you can work in lockstep together to figure out how to save money, how to understand finances a little bit better, how to allow them to spend without overspending. So whether you're setting savings goals, learning how to track their spending, or even getting an allowance, it's all right there at their fingertips. And each kid gets their own debit card, so it makes them feel like they're able to work on purchases, learn how to budget, build real world money skills, and while you are able to stay in control of all of the finances from your phone. So you get the peace of mind, and they get the chance to make smart, responsible choices with their money. So if you're looking for a way to teach your kids some financial literacy this Financial Literacy Month, I can't recommend the Greenlight app enough. It's like training for life's biggest game. Head on over to TrueMark.com/Greenlight to get all the details and sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set your kids up for financial success. All right. That's going to do it here for the PHLY Phillies watch along. Big thank you to everybody who has been in the chat. Phillies fall 5-1 in this one to the New York Mets. They dropped both games of the to start the series, and will drop the series. It's their third series loss in 5. They've only won one series over the last 5 series as well. They're 13-11 now. So we'll get to the PHLY postgame show momentarily. Going to step away, grab a bite to eat and a drink of water, because we've been on the air for exactly 3 hours. And we'll be back with you in just a little bit. So big thank you to everybody in the chat. Big thank you to Andrew Frasier. And, of course, big thank you to everybody in our PHLY staff that joined throughout the show. Could not have done it without Andrew and without all of our PHLY staff. So we'll check back in with you for the PHLY postgame show in just a few minutes right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.